that is now live on YouTube too. So hopefully we will be able to speak to our lovely YouTube friends in just a moment and confirm that everything is good with the stream there too. Hi YouTube people, good to see you. Hope you are all well. Thank you for joining me on the early stream. For those of you in different time zones where it's super early, I massively appreciate this. Anyone on the West Coast, it's like 4 a.m. This is super early. Of course, East Coast, like 7. That's still early enough to be joining a live stream. So I really, really, really appreciate it. Good to see you. Pastor Fairy is in the house. Kif is in the house. Isa is in the house. 46, great to see you. Robert Gould, good to see you too. And Ivy and the Devil in the Circuit. Good people in the house already. I love this. So I do not forget the Midwest, of course, the sensible time zone in the US, where I think it's still like, I think that's 6 hours behind where we are. So still super early in the Midwest too. So friends from the Midwest, I love that. I love that you're here. 7 a.m. in Michigan, and Dave Murphy is in a live stream on the internet talking about religion. I love it. Thank you so much. Okay, we've got Mr. in the queue on the TikTok side, so I won't dilly dally. Let's get our first guest straight in now, and then I'll talk a little bit more about what this prompt means, and perhaps I might be able to clarify it during the first conversation. It'll make a bit more sense.
Hello, what's going on?
Hey, Mister, how are you?
What's up? Just out of curiosity, I've had a discussion with you that actually went quite nicely before, John. Who is Sean? Just so I know. Who I'm speaking to.
Sean is my regular co-host, longtime friend and partner up here.
Awesome.
So meet Sean.
I've never spoken to you, so very nice to meet you, Sean.
How you doing? Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Appreciate
I've spoken to you, John. I'm not sure if you remember me though.
I have to be honest. Right now, I don't, but it may, and I do. I have been taking notes on callers, but not since the beginning. So
absolutely no worries. I can't imagine how many guests you speak to.
A few. But
yes,
I try not to forget people. So forgive me for not remembering. But should we just kick off and not worry perhaps about our previous? Let's just go for it.
No, I just wanted to let you know that I remember a fond interaction between us. So I'm excited.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah. This is my claim. I know it looks like a bold claim, right? Atheism.
I was about to say,
yeah, cannot be wrong. It sounds like I may be getting ahead of my skis here and biting off more than I can comfortably chew. But I can actually make sense of this in a way that might make it more reasonable, or sound more reasonable. I
see a cheeky way of you going about that in my head.
There are two actually, and they're not cheeky. They're just clarifying. So
sure.
Before we get into it, perhaps you could just let us all know, and people who aren't familiar, who are as unfamiliar with you as I was at the start of the call, what's your position here? Are you a believer in a God, and if so, which one?
So I'd like to clarify terms. I tend to be, I like to be quite rigorous when we discuss any sort of metaphysics or philosophy whatsoever. When you say the word believe, what do you mean?
Think it exists.
Ooh, think it exists. If by think it exists, you mean, would it be fair to say contextually for the sake of the conversation, am 51% convinced, let's say, in theory? I'm more convinced than not.
Yeah, I think that is fair, because I don't think that if you make a claim to believe something, that doesn't need to always equate to absolute certainty. You know, I might say I believe we're going to have nice weather next week, right? It doesn't mean I'm certain. I wouldn't bet my life on it, but I'm convinced that it's true or likely true. So that's what I take to mean by believe. That one is convinced it's true or likely. Yeah, convinced it's true or likely true. Is that fair?
Sorry, John. Yes, I would say no. I would call myself. I know the terms aren't necessarily perfect. I would call myself agnostic, but. I don't lean toward theism. However, I do, maybe it would be fair to say I lean towards theism, but in the agnostic category, if you get where I'm going with that.
You can be an agnostic theist.
Yes, so that's my position. I've heard people rebut me on that, however, by saying that as an agnostic theist, it would be a contradiction in terms.
No. Since
the original term agnostic means, I'm not exactly
sure.
We're
on the same page there. So John and I are agnostic atheists. So neither John nor I are convinced any gods exist. But if you believe that, I actually believe there is a God, but you don't claim knowledge to it, then you're an agnostic theist, which is
Yes.
totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so I personally have previously classified myself as an agnostic theist. However, I think there's a large possibility that God doesn't exist. On the other
Sure.
hand, so I love to classify myself as agnostic in general, but that's my position.
All right. So I think in these conversations, people generally, these conversations are more interesting to listen to if we don't get too caught up in, what exactly do we mean by belief? I think in a broad sense, we're saying there's this idea widely circulating in our culture that some type of God exists. And some people agree with the idea broadly with varying levels of confidence, and some people disagree with the idea. So I'm making a statement here that atheism cannot be wrong. And what I mean by that, I don't mean that it cannot be false that no gods exist. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is atheism is a position of belief, right? It's a personal position about what a person finds convincing. And when I say wrong, here's where I'm being a little bit cheeky, but actually it's valid. I'm using wrong in two ways at once. One is that it can't be factually incorrect that a person believes something. Right? It could be the case that my lack of a belief in a God represents a mistake I'm making, that I'm missing something. But it is still my belief. It's still just a statement about what convinces me. So it can't be false that I'm lacking that belief. Right? That's one, but that's not a particularly important strand. The more important strand here is that it can't be morally wrong. This is really where I'm coming from. Is that it can never be morally wrong to just not be convinced of something. And that's why I say the word wrong, deliberately having a dual meaning. One, the less impressive one, which is a bit of a word game, really, just to say, I'm not making a claim about reality. I'm making a claim about my own belief state, which a lot of people miss. And then the other one is the moral side.
I just want to tell you, not only since I've had this discussion with you before, we've actually spoke about the second portion a little bit. I, however, agree with both parts of your statement. I think that the initial part of your statement, that's what I was presuming initially, that atheism would be your subjectively held position.
Yeah.
Therefore, of course, it can't be incorrect, as it's just a subjective, position. There is no such thing as right or wrong from the subjective perspective. Now, the second thing you said, I completely agree with you. Under my theoretical theism, I guess you could call it, if God does exist, yes, I would 100% be of the belief that your intellectual belief about his existence is essentially meaningless in his eyes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and so to clarify something, I'm looking at Dade Murphy's just made a comment which is worth picking up on. So Dade says, I make the affirmative claim that the triune God of Christianity does not exist. I'm not withholding judgment. It doesn't exist. I happen to agree with that, actually. So I think that with respect to certain gods, atheism, atheism as a condition of not being convinced a God exists is an umbrella term. But then you can get down to certain specific gods. Do I think that Poseidon exists? I'm not particularly open-minded about the possibility of Poseidon existing. So there, my atheism would then extend to strong atheism with respect to that particular deity. But in its broadest sense, atheism is just, and the reason why I want to run this topic is okay, you've got a more subtle and nuanced understanding of this than perhaps many people we speak to. Some people really do think that atheism just means making the positive claim that no gods exist. And in its broadest sense, it actually doesn't mean that. Within that group, there are people who do make that claim, and it can't be moralized. So it sounds like we're in broad agreement.
Yes, we are in very broad agreement. Atheism just means that you're not convinced that a God exists based on the evidence. Yeah, I totally understand the terms. Yeah, I mean, it's terribly, terribly sad how many people are I mean, I guess very uneducated about this topic. But
it's understandable, and that's why we're here, to help people understand each other better.
A lot of people come up to discuss it who are uneducated, right? Like I'm not the most educated ever. Don't get me wrong. I'm quite uneducated in particular areas, but I think a lot of, and this is what I was going to get into, I think a lot of epistemic humility is missed. amongst pretty much everybody. People are very confident making positive and affirmative claims about reality, and I think it's very, very, very terrible, scary, dogmatic, and needs to be dismantled.
I agree.
Sure.
But before we tie things up, because we'll move it on in a moment. But before we tie things up, I would just offer you something to consider, which is don't perceive agnosticism as a kind of midway point between belief and non-belief. Some people think about it that way, like belief at one end, non-belief at the other end, and agnosticism in the middle. That would be a mistake. It doesn't really work like that. You either believe something or you don't. And agnostic just means, as Sean said, you're not making a claim to knowledge. So you can be agnostic and be a firm believer, and you can be agnostic and be completely without belief. The agnosticism is not a midway point between the light being on and the light being off, because no such point exists. You either have a belief or you don't. And then your belief, as you said, could be held with 51% confidence. You could say, on balance, I think a God probably does exist. Well, then you're a believer. You're just a believer with a weak level of, a low level of conviction in the belief.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was gonna, what's it called, John? I'm not sure, and Sean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. I don't know how relevant this is to you guys. I have a very hyper specific. I'm sure I would be called heretical for my personal brand of Christianity, as I essentially reject the infallibility of the Old and New Testament, and I believe God undergoes pretty much like complete change from via the incarnation, and that's why there's kind of a personality shift. So I don't necessarily condone the actions of the God of the Old Testament. So I don't, and there's a bunch of complicated stuff with that I'd prefer not to get into just for length. However, I would like to talk about epistemology if that's something that would interest you, purely because.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the audience here have tuned in for a discussion on epistemology. I think the audience here have tuned in to hear discussions about how we engage with these widely held and rather ridiculous beliefs about magical beings.
But don't you think that all goes back to epistemology at the end of the day, right? Like, that's kind of how I think about it.
It might, but it might. I see what you're saying. Lots of people hold beliefs because they have poor epistemology, right? I call them epistemic hygiene. They're poor epistemic hygiene. But I just think those things are better revealed in the context of a conversation with a person who holds those views. And then we can say, look, here's why this view doesn't work, rather than you and I having a conversation about somebody else's poor epistemology, which will be less interesting for the audience.
Sure, absolutely. I just really do enjoy this. I like to call it a thought experiment. I kind of use it often. Just out of curiosity, if you want to ask me any personal questions about like my personal view on theism, maybe that could be insightful for someone watching, or maybe someone would heavily disagree with me and it would be interesting. That's awesome. But I really do want to hear what you guys have to say about this, because it interests me. So imagine you're speaking to an oracle. This oracle is like omniscient, right? It's a super simple one, so it's going to be very quick. The oracle asks you, are you more, so he knows what you're saying. You also, let's say, receive a terrible punishment if you be dishonest. The oracle asks you, are you more confident that you're experiencing visual qualia, or are you more confident that the sun will rise tomorrow? What would your answer be?
Those two things aren't mutually exclusive.
But if he's asking about which one, I'm certain that I'm experiencing visual qualia, and and my belief about the sun is inductive and not held with as much confidence.
Okay, I thought you were presenting those as a dichotomy, like you're experiencing quality, or because I do believe both, but yes, of course
I believe both as well. Yeah, I was just asking about like epistemic preference. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, so I totally agree with you, John. And it's so funny. A lot of like atheists, and I'm not sure if you're a naturalist, but a lot of atheists / naturalists don't like to make that concession, and I don't see why. Like, I personally, even if I didn't believe in God, I believe in evolution and science and all science. There's no evidence to suggest that anything that is scientifically demonstrated is inaccurate whatsoever until demonstrated otherwise. Again,
agreed.
So yeah, I really think that at the bottom of the tunnel for theism discussions is epistemics. But yeah, I had a personal curiosity about your answer to that question.
All right, dude. Well, we're gonna move it on.
No problem.
But thank you for calling in. Nice to talk to you, and I will remember you next time. You're in my notes now. So thanks,
Take
Mister.
care.
Good to speak. Thanks. Take care. Bye. Okay, there we are. Okay, we're going to go over to the YouTube side and get in Silly Cat. Good name. Silly Cat.
Audible?
Silly Cat, are you there?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. How about you?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Floor is yours. What would you like to say?
Yeah, so actually, I used to be kind of rebellious when I was young. Actually, I have a lot of autism symptoms. So I used to dislike a lot of touch and a lot of things in rituals like smells and incense, a lot of things. And my family used to force me into the rituals. So I used to be really uncomfortable. And then they labeled me as atheist back then. So I thought as well that maybe I indeed am an atheist, and I rebelled for a long time. But soon, one day, what happened is I was really panicked due to fights in my family and all. And I wished in my head that whoever divine or whatever it is, that they will stop the fights in my home. And
we are slightly struggling to hear you, I'm afraid. It's not the clearest connection. If you could just try to maybe speak up a little bit and a bit more clearly. It's not entirely clear, I'm afraid. But let's try and get to the point. So your family had labelled you an atheist for being rebellious, and without telling a life story, where are you at now with your beliefs about God?
Yeah, I'm getting to that. So what happened is around 3 years ago, I still had in my doubts, but in my family there used to be a lot of fights. So I wished one day that whatever divine there is, that they will stop this fight. And I was really panicked that day. And next day, one of my family members passed away. So I was really in a long guilt session for a few months. I thought that my wish has caused it and all. So after that, I decided that
I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm sure you have a fascinating story, but not everyone here is necessarily in a mood to hear it. Just tell us what you think about gods. We're making a claim, and we're inviting people to call in to discuss our claim. So I don't mean to cut you off like that, but we're trying to be focused here. So we're saying atheism can't be wrong. Do you agree or disagree with the claim?
I believe that no theists have any logical claim on whether there is a God or not. So I don't really believe them right now.
Okay,
but what happens with me was whenever there is an argument that God is good or divine is good and all, I tend to get a lot of frustration that how can it be due to the stuff happening in my life. So that's why I get really emotional. So I'm trying to wonder how to deal with it and all.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's probably not really within the scope of the conversation here. I will be running more open, sort of free-flowing Q&A. Let's talk about all sorts of stuff sessions. I'm going to be announcing the date for the first one in the next few days. It's going to be in the next 10 days, and then you're very welcome to call back then, and we could talk about things like that. But really, I'm trying to stick to. My audience have said, please stick to the topics, and I'm listening. So I appreciate that. Thanks for calling in, and we look forward to speaking to you again.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you
All
very
right.
much about it.
Thanks. Take care. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. We are going to get in Not Your Valentine from the TikTok side. Hey, how you doing?
Hello there. Can you hear me?
Perfectly. How are you?
Oh, I'm good.
Good.
How about you?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Agree or disagree with our prompt here? Atheism cannot be wrong.
I'm kind of like in the middle. So I made a comment earlier where I said, okay, this is where I stand. I believe they are deities.
You believe that there are deities. Okay, so you are a theist then? Or a deist?
Yeah, kind of. But at the same time, I will be leaning more towards the agnostic part because I believe that we don't know much about the deities. I would
Okay.
say I would have been an atheist if I was not from Africa, because I'm from Africa, Nigeria, and I have seen powers at work, things like blood sacrifices, rituals, money rituals, and stuff like that. So, those sacrifices have to be going to somewhere, right?
Why?
If they work, because they do work.
Well, what does working mean in that context?
Okay, let's say I want to do money ritual. I need like $5 million, and they say I should bring let's say the kidney of a 10-year-old and maybe the spleen of a
Wow.
5-year-old. Yeah, those things happen.
You think
They
that
happen
works?
over
You think that
And
cutting body parts? So let me just clarify here: cutting body parts of children and offering them to deities is a success, a recipe for financial success in your worldview.
They do work here. We've had multiple arrests.
They don't work.
We've
So
had-
people are doing them, but that doesn't mean they work. Possibly they're doing them and then convincing gullible people to give them money. That might work, but it's definitely not the case in reality that procuring the body parts of children leads to financial remuneration. That isn't a principle of nature.
I don't have any solid proof, to be
I know.
honest. I just
No,
have,
and you won't be able
just
to
have-
find any.
I just have like experiences and stories that we've seen
I know.
a million times. It's very, very rampant over here, and they are like traditional beliefs where people worship these deities. You understand?
I do understand. Yeah, that's horrific.
And they see results. So coming to the point, I think where my disbelief come from is the whole concept of the Christian God. That is where I draw the line, because it really doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up. But the God who pays people for children's spleens makes perfect sense.
If
Come on. I mean, there's a line between respect for cultural tradition and tolerating nonsense, and this is quite comfortably into the latter.
I think what I've been actually considering for quite a bit of time right now is even let's forget about the whole blood ritual and things. There are people who do certain rituals to do some basic things like stop the rain. I've actually witnessed that. Let's say they have a ceremony coming and it wants to rain.
Stop the
And
rain.
this person, he will literally stop the rain.
Do you know that rain occasionally stops?
Yeah. But when this scientific fact is when these things can be repeated over and over, you understand, you actually have to like think maybe this holds a little bit of water.
I can repeat that with 100% success. Every time it rains, I can do any kind of ritual, anything, and it will eventually stop the rain 100% of the time.
Yeah.
It'll be repeatable.
It's amazing. And when it's not raining, when it's not raining,
when I go like this, the rain will stop eventually.
And also when it's not raining, if you bury a carrot in the garden, at some point it's going to start raining again. It's incredible. Works every time.
I really wish you could witness what I'm saying. You understand? Maybe it will trigger something, because that's one of the things that actually like sow the seed of, let me say, believe in deities to me.
Yeah,
because
you need to slightly reconsider your bar for evidence, because the thing is that there are, I don't know if you know what heuristic is, but heuristic is when the human mind takes a kind of mental shortcut. Like something happens and our brains are always trying to make sense of stuff. And one of the common heuristics is that we confuse cause and correlation. That means that something happens and then something else happens and we go, the second thing happened after the first thing. It must have been caused by it. But what you'll find with this is if you pay attention to the full data set, and rather than just paying attention to the number of times someone prayed for rain and then it rained, or prayed for it not to rain and it didn't rain, you have to also look at, statistically, the number of times someone didn't pray for rain and then it rained, or the number of times someone prayed for rain and it didn't rain. And when you do that, and you do statistical analysis of this, you will find that the efficacy of prayer, astonishingly, is exactly the same as the efficacy of not praying. They have exactly the same success rate.
That's That makes sense, actually.
Yeah. So when you do that, all the evidence that you're sitting on suddenly evaporates, and it's nothing. It's like, have you ever had that thing where you think about someone and then the phone rings and it's the person you were thinking about?
Yeah.
It feels amazing when it happens, but start counting the number of times that you think about someone and then they don't call, or somebody calls you who you weren't thinking about. And then you'll realize that the first instance is actually not that amazing. And if things like that never happened to you, it would be more impressive. So yeah, I don't think this is a reason to believe in deities. I think it's a reason to believe in gullible people. They definitely exist.
Well, this is a very tough one.
Be open-minded. Be open-minded to thinking about things in a different way. I can also recommend a book if you'd like.
Okay, please. I would love
read How We Know What Isn't So by Thomas Gilovich. Very good book. It's a short book. I read it in one day. It's a small book. How We Know What Isn't So. And it talks about this stuff and some of the ways that our minds get kind of tricked by these kind of patterns into thinking that things are going on when they're actually not. So, we're going to move it along, but thank you very much for calling in. And I recommend that think a bit more carefully about things, and you'll be able to see them slightly differently. And it'll just make you less likely to be fooled. Nobody wants to be fooled by stuff, right? And you deserve not to be.
Yeah, sure.
All right, friend. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you very much for having me.
Sure. Take care. Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, there we go. We are going to stay on the TikTok side and get in Heinrich right now. Hi, Heinrich.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. How are you?
I'm well. Yourself?
Very well indeed, thanks. Welcome in. You sound like you're the right age or above, so I won't ask. What would you like to say?
So your premise is atheism cannot be wrong, correct?
Correct.
I have a question. So what do you think about causation?
In what sense? What do I think about it?
For instance,
I think it's great.
So I would assume you believe in the Big Bang, correct?
I wouldn't say I believe in it. I would say that I accept its validity as the best model proposed so far for cosmic expansion.
Okay, and so the law of causation says something cannot just be forever, right? Something had to
that
cause
isn't
the
that
Big
isn't
Bang.
what that isn't what the law of causation said. I'm not even sure there really is a law of causation. Can you tell me what that is and who proposed it?
So I can't tell you who proposed it. I read it a long time ago. I'm not like an expert by any means, but the point of it is that nothing can just be or not be, right? There's always, like, for instance, the Earth. Was the Earth always here? No, it was obviously,
I think contingent is the word we're looking for here, isn't it?
So let's just cut to the chase. I accept that something probably caused the Big Bang.
Okay.
Where are you going? I have no idea. But if you claim to have an explanation, what is it and what's your evidence for it?
Oh no, I don't. My evidence is that you saying that atheism cannot be wrong when that's
correct.
just as much faith as saying that God exists.
No, I agree. So I agree with you. First of all, I want to thank you for agreeing with us that faith is not a good reason to believe something, but we have no use for faith. Atheism is just not being convinced of something, and I can't be wrong about my own mind state. So I'm experiencing my lack of belief in a God, so I can't be wrong about that. There's a double meaning there that, like, some people cast moral aspersions on belief states, and it can't be morally wrong to be an atheist either.
And to just clarify something for you, Heinrich, atheism in this sense is not the positive claim that there are zero gods. That isn't what atheism means. There are atheists who make that claim, but there are also atheists who don't make that claim.
Do you think that the only logical position is agnostic? Because truly we can never know. Everything hinges on what happens after we die. It's either kaput, lights out, or something does happen. The true logical position is I have no clue.
I agree, but actually that's what happens after we die is absolutely nothing to do with whether a god exists. There could be a god and no afterlife, and there could be an afterlife and no god. So the two subjects are not necessarily conjoined in that way. But
that's fair.
But the clarification that part of the reason why I'm running this topic with this title is to try and help to spread a slightly better understanding of what atheism actually means. Because lots of people just think, oh, it means someone who's insisting that there are no gods. And as I said, there are atheists who say that, but there are many atheists who don't say that. They just say, I'm not convinced there are any. And that's a very different claim, a very different
that's a fair position.
And that's why I say it can't be wrong. Because as Sean said, it's just a description of somebody's belief.
Okay, that's fair. I just, from my perspective, I would say that the only logical position is I don't know. It's not I know God exists or I cannot be wrong that God doesn't exist.
That is the position we hold.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that. So we are agnostic atheists. So a lot of people take those two terms to be mutually exclusive, and they're not. So agnosticism only deals with knowledge. We're not claiming to know there are no gods, but we are atheists because we are not convinced there are any gods.
So what do you think the double split experiment implies?
Particle. Yeah, it implies that when you look for particle behavior or wave behavior, you kind of find what you're looking for depending on the setup. I don't think it implies anything to do with this. You might as well have asked, what do you think better practice for growing tomatoes implies? It's a fascinating subject, obviously, but not directly related to this one.
Well, I just meant that it's attached usually to what it created the observer theory, correct? And that, it could say that, potentially we're in a simulation, which, a simulation would then have a creator.
Yes, true, but particle wave duality doesn't really lead to simulation theory. It's just about the behavior of effects at a particular level. Quantum effects disappear at the macro level, and it's kind of outside of the scope, I think, of the discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I really wanted to say. I was just curious about that, and I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate
Thanks, Heinrich. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good one.
And you. Thank you. Okay, we will move on now. Staying on the TikTok side, we're going to get in Doberman for Works, and then we've got David after that. So hold where you are, David. We'll get you in shortly. Doberman for Works coming in first. Hey, Doberman, how are you? Good.
I'm good, thank you very much. How are you?
Yeah, fantastic, thank you. You sound like you're definitely 18. What would you like to say?
I'm 21, actually.
Fair enough.
I'm a Christian as well. I'd like to discuss the topic that atheism cannot be wrong.
Sure. Welcome up. What would you like to say about it?
I believe that Jesus Christ is the way. I believe that Christ is the way. I can give you scripture to refute your points, but I'd like to understand why you believe in atheism specifically.
Yeah, well, atheism isn't a thing you believe in. So again, as I just said to our previous guests, part of the reason why I'm running this prompt is to allow believers, as much as anyone else, to develop a slightly more nuanced understanding of what atheism actually means. Because the way you just framed your question tells me already that you could do with that help. And I mean that respectfully. I don't mean it as a slur, right? So many people, especially people in a religious background, think that atheism means the positive claim there are no gods. It isn't that. Atheism is just not believing the claims that you are making, right? I don't believe the claims that you make about a god. I'm just not convinced of them. I also don't believe the claims that Muslims make about a god, or Jains, or Hindus, or anyone else. Anyone who's making claims about a god, so far, I just find those claims unconvincing. There might be a god. Right. There might be a god. I'm open to it. But so far, I'm without the belief. And so being without the belief means I'm not a theist. And we have a word for people who are not a theist. It's an atheist. So I'm not making any claims that you would need to go digging in the Bible to refute, because I haven't made any claims. I'm just saying I don't believe the ones you're making. Does that make sense?
Right. It makes sense. But from your point, when you say atheism cannot be wrong, that's saying it as an objective statement. But clearly your viewpoint of it is quite subjective.
No, I'm saying it can't be wrong because it's not making a positive claim. It's not capable of being wrong. I'm not making any claims about reality. I'm just saying I'm not convinced of the claims you're making. Therefore, it can't be wrong.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How do you think the world came to be? Like, how do you think it was?
That's a wild pivot. But by the world, what do you mean? Do you mean planet Earth? Do you mean everything?
Everything. Planet Earth.
Everything. Let's say for the sake of the argument. I say I have absolutely no idea.
Well, fair enough. I can't argue with that. If you refuse to go and find out the knowledge, then I can't say too much about it.
Saying I don't know isn't refusing to go find the knowledge.
Well,
in fact, it's a precursor to going and finding the knowledge. If you just insert some random explanation into it, then you no longer have any motivation to seek the actual truth of things. So, for example, the people who at one point didn't understand lightning and thunder and posited, oh, it's caused by Thor, no longer had a reason to investigate and eventually discover that static electricity causes lightning and thunder.
Wait, can I just read you a scripture that refutes your point about the whole world being created?
Is it Romans 1?
Oh, yes.
Of course.
Romans
it's
1.
Always Romans 1. Do you think we've not heard that before? Romans 1 is like a biblical mind control act. It's like it awards itself the win without doing any of the work. Romans 1 is just simply declaring that everyone who looks at nature knows that there's a God. This is one of the most easily refutable verses in the whole Bible because it's demonstrably false.
Just please refute it for me.
Well, I can refute it right now. Sean, have you ever looked at nature?
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking Sean. Sean, have you ever looked at nature?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you a believer, Sean?
No.
Romans 1 disproved on the internet in front of hundreds of people. Job done. Got any other verses?
No, do you know why you've disproved it? You've actually proved it by saying you don't believe it. Because let me read you Romans 1, verse 20 to 25, so it shows that what you've just said actually proves it being right.
It's one of the worst.
For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. For although they knew God, they neither glorified him as God, nor gave thanks to him, but their thinking became futile and their foolish hearts were darkened. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools.
Right. Okay, so can we take those claims one at a time? Can we take those claims one at a time? It says it's been clearly seen. It hasn't been clearly seen by me, so that means that particular line is factually wrong, correct?
As I've just asked, how do you believe the world is formed? Give me an actual.
Well, no, I'm sorry. You're going to answer my question. So Romans says what can be known about God has been clearly seen, but it has not been clearly seen by me. So that means it's factually wrong, correct?
No, because you just don't. Okay. You refuse to understand. You refuse to listen and understand.
So actually no. So if it's clearly seen by me, I would have no choice but to see it. But also, I am not refusing anything. If there's a God, I genuinely want to know it. The reason I know that's true is because I have access to my own mind, and I can read my own mind.
Can I ask you a question?
Are you no? You can address what I said. So your retort was that I refuse to see it. But because I have access to my own mind, I know that that's not true too. If there is actually a God, I genuinely want to know because I want to know the truth of things. And I'm a former believer who tried to continue believing and couldn't.
Mm-hmm. Right, got you. Can I ask you a question? When you see your house, how do you think it was created?
Oh dear.
How do you think it was formed?
Oh, good Lord, really?
No. Answer my question, bro.
No, hang on a second. Do you imagine
you're gonna address what I said? You're just pivoting.
Yeah,
bro, you didn't ask me any questions. You just said your belief. So how can I?
Well, address. Okay, so I'll ask you a question. You claimed that I refused to see it. I would be consciously aware of my own refusal, right? Like if I offer you a banana and you refuse it, you know that you're consciously aware of that refusal. So you're claiming I refuse to believe. Like, well, first of all, that's not even a thing. But second of all, I would be aware of it, right? If I'm refusing something.
Well, the thing is, when you refuse,
is that a yes or no?
You're aware that you're refusing it, but you're not aware of the consequences of it.
Oh, okay, got you. So I am aware that I am not refusing to see evidence. I'm just not convinced of evidence. So that means Romans is wrong, correct?
No.
Okay, so is it true or not true? You claimed I refused to see it. So am I lying? Is that what are you accusing me of lying?
Well, first of all, you're being deceived by the enemy. Second of all,
are you accusing me of lying?
Are you going to let me respond to your point?
Sure. Instead of just responding, I'd like you to answer, though.
Yes. I'm going to answer your question, so please let me respond.
Okay.
Thank you very much. The more you refuse to look at something, the more, as the scripture says, the more foolish you become, and the more your heart gets darkened.
Great, I'm not refusing to look at something.
When I sin or reject God, I start to believe in him less, and my faith weakens because I'm.
We don't need a sermon. We need to follow. We need to follow this linearly because you're trying to create verbal.
Whenever I go on these lives, anyone else.
You're trying to create verbal distance between the linear progression of the conversation. So we don't need a sermon. You accuse me of refusing to see it. I explained to you that I'm not refusing to see it, and I asked you a direct question: do you think I'm lying? You did not say yes or no. You didn't even begin to address my question. Do you think I'm lying? Please start with yes, no, or I don't know, and then continue forward.
I believe the devil's lying to you.
That's different.
Okay, so sorry. I'm sorry. Did you think my question was? Do you think you believe the devil is lying to me?
I believe you have a reprobate mind.
Answer his question.
How about my question?
You're lying.
Okay, so I'm lying to myself.
Yes.
Okay. This is interesting. So you're now basically reframing the conversation such that the rules of this conversation allow for people to speak with knowledge about the belief states or the mind states, the mental states of other people. This is fantastic, because if you get to do it, then I also get to do it. So I'm just going to say, I don't believe that you actually believe in God. I think you're lying to yourself too and just pretending to believe. That's exactly what you're doing.
That's perfectly fine, but I guess one of us will be true, and when we all die,
but the thing is,
the truth is going to be revealed.
Yeah, that's
so
lovely.
You can fit that way. That's not an issue.
Delightful, but that's just making threats, right? So
if it's not true, why is it a threat?
The point is that it's still a threat. It's just an empty threat. The point is that it's the height of hubris for one human being to tell another person what they believe, which is what you just did with Sean.
Yeah.
Right? Sean told you that the reason why I said to you that Romans 1 is one of the most easily refutable verses in all of Scripture is it because it makes a claim that is demonstrably false. So Romans 1 says, for what can be known about God is plain to them because God's made it plain to them. What does it mean for something to be plain to someone?
It's obvious.
It means that they would find it easy to see, right?
Yes.
And if they find it easy to see, they would be able to see it, right?
Yes.
So when someone says they look at nature and they don't see what can be known about God, that refutes the verse, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then what you do in order to cope with that is you start making up magic stories about the reason why we can't see it is because of a bad monster called the devil who's interfering with our ability to see things. But you would
necessarily. Can I respond?
But you would have to prove that exists. And the only way you can do that is to presuppose the truth of the thing that's under question here. So your entire response to this problem is circular.
All right, first of all, can I respond? First of all, you said what Scripture says is demonstrably false.
It is.
And that's you. That's now you doing exactly what I did. And it's a subjective opinion because you don't believe in Scripture.
It's not a subjective opinion.
It's quite hypocritical.
It's not a subjective opinion.
For you to say it's demonstrably false.
It's not a subjective
opinion. Because you don't believe God's real. And then say I'm begging the question when I believe the exact same thing. You're being a hypocrite.
So I'd like to leave space for you. No. You're not going to do a shopping list. I'd like to leave space.
Okay,
I'd like to leave space for you to respond. But what I'm not going to allow you to do is speak for a long time, making mistakes all the way through. And then have to go, and then right, but and the error appeared in second number 2. So the reason I'm stopping you is that you said that it's subjective. My disagreement about the truth of the claim in Romans 1 is subjective. It's not subjective. It's just a fact. The verse.
Are you saying God's not real?
I'm saying that the verse makes a claim which is factually untrue. I'm not saying that right now. The verse makes a claim which is factually untrue. It claims that everyone can see evidence of God. Right. And you are currently talking to people who can't. Therefore, not subjectively, objectively, the verse is untrue. It is false. It fails by... Do you know what inference rules are?
Are you gonna let me respond?
Do you know what inference rules are?
Because are you gonna let me respond?
This is really basic logic.
Are you going to let me respond?
Yeah, but I think your response is...
Can I respond then?
Your response is already based on a misunderstanding.
No.
So,
can you let me respond? That's why it says after that verse. Therefore, God gave them over to a reprobate mind, so they would not understand.
So it's God's fault. So it's God's fault that we can't see Him. Oh, okay.
First of all, it's your fault that you choose to refuse to believe what's obviously plain in front of you, and God will give you over to your own sinful desires.
I have a question.
Let me finish.
I have a question for you.
Let me finish, bro. Thank you very much. So as I said, God gives you over to a reprobate mind. Second of all, you said that it's demonstrably false. Well, if I believe God's real, that means everything within Scripture is true.
Okay,
and
lovely.
This
is just preaching at this point. No, you're not actually making an argument. You're not actually making an argument right now.
You're just preaching. I just have a question for you. So your explanation for why it's your explanation for why it's not plain to me is that the reason it's not plain to me is because the devil is deceiving me, right?
Oh, and God gave you over to a reprobate mind as well. He's teaming up with the devil.
So that's the reason it's not plain to me, correct? You can unmute yourself now. Correct? Yes or no?
Are you going to let me respond properly?
So do you understand responding and answering are two different things, right?
Well, you guys interrupt me every time I say a point. So
are you going to answer? You're going to answer the question yes or no, and then not just yes or no. You can elaborate on your answer. So you are saying, I want to clarify your position. You are saying the reason it's not plain to me is because the devil is deceiving me. Correct?
Am I going to be able to elaborate on my answer?
You don't. Hang on a second. You don't get when you say, "Am I going to be able to elaborate on my answer?" You don't get a 10-minute hall pass. We're trying to keep the conversation. We're trying to keep the conversation focused. Now, the issue with this is when you start speaking and your reply contains obviously false things. It's better to just stop you there and deal with them than allow you to speak for 2 or 3 minutes or 1 minute or however long it is, making lots of false statements and then have to go back to the beginning again and clarify stuff, right?
You being a hypocrite, because I think everything you're saying is demonstrably false as well.
Delightful. That's fine.
I guess we're going to agree to disagree.
We are. When you start your live stream and I come into the live stream to make my points, you're entitled to structure the conversation in the way you like. So rather than crying about the meta and how we're running the stream, why don't you start with responding to the point we're making here?
Yeah. So please actually answer the question.
If we're not going to have an honest conversation, I'm not responding to any.
Okay, so please answer. I mean, run away if you want. So here's the question again.
That's fine.
The reason it's not plain to me, according to you, is because the devil is deceiving me, right?
I said there's 2 reasons.
Okay, so that's 2 reasons why it's not plain to me.
There's 2 reasons. There's 2 reasons.
Okay, cool. So you just admitted it's not plain to me, and Romans 1 says, "For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them." And you're saying the reason it is not plain to me is because X and Y. So you admitted it's not plain to me, which means you admitted that Romans 1 is wrong. Thank you for your concession.
You didn't let me elaborate, but that's fine. As you've been interrupting me the whole time, can I elaborate?
Yeah, you can elaborate to why Romans. Explain to us why. Hold on. You can explain to us what caused Romans 1 to be wrong.
Perfect. I'm elaborate. Everything that God's put outside is plain to every single person. They choose whether or not to believe in it. That's why God says after, when they don't believe in it, he gives them over to their sinful desires, or the enemy comes and takes it away. So over time, once you stop believing what's obviously plain to you, you now have a reprobate mind, a foolish mind, which means you naturally don't want to. It's no longer plain to you because God's given you over to your sinful desires, over to your lustful flesh.
I have a question.
Wait, so it's not plain. It's not plain to me. But it says it is plain to me, right? Those are 2 different things. So that contradicts Romans 1, right? You said the reason it's no longer. Hold on. You said the reason it's no longer plain to you.
Are you going to let me finish?
Yeah, but you're not going to create verbal distance between the points, and you're going to move on to the next point.
Yes or no?
Not if you start moving on to other points.
There we go.
Not if you start.
There we go.
Anyway, so you said the reason why it's not plain to you anymore, but according to Romans 1, it is still plain to me. Is present tense. For what can be known about God is plain to them. So that means it's not. Romans 1 is wrong, correct? Yes or no?
No, something can clearly be plain to you and you can still be blind.
So I don't understand what your point is.
That's actually a contradiction.
Yeah, this bullshit. But make your second point. Make your second point, because we wouldn't want you crying anymore about the injury of not being able to make it.
Have you seen those Stonehenges and someone says that's the face of a stone? That's actually a face of a human being. But someone can't see it.
Delightful.
Even though it's plain to you, they're blind.
Make your second point, and then I have a question for you.
All right, thank you very much. So when I say, I'm just going to deal with his point. When I say something's plain to someone, but they can't see it, it's because they've allowed themselves to become blind to it. So, for example, like I said with those Stonehenges, if you can see, someone can see a face of a Stonehenge and say, look, it's obviously a face of a Stonehenge, but because they're blind and they refuse to see it, they cannot see it. So when I talk about these rules and regulations God's given us and the invisible qualities we see outside, when you say, oh yes, I can't see it, I can't see God, it's clearly in front of you. It's obvious and plain to you. But because you refuse to believe in God in your heart, you refuse to see what's obviously there. Once you open your heart to truly see it,
lovely. That's just preaching. No. Okay. Yeah, we didn't ask for a sermon. Okay, that was your second. So your second point was just sermon. Got it. Okay. So the question I have for you is: in this stuff, is there any conceptual room left in here for just honest non-belief?
What do you mean?
Is there any conceptual room left in this framework for honest non-belief?
Anyone that refuses to believe the word that's obviously there in front of them, there's no room, there's no fair enough.
So this is why this is a disgusting and immoral preachment, and as well as being factually incorrect, it's also immoral because it doesn't leave any conceptual space for honest non-belief. Do you know what a non-resistant non-believer is?
A non-resistant non-believer.
Yeah, is that a term you've heard before?
I can't lie, I'm just scrolling on my thing, but a non-resistant non-believer, please explain.
Yeah, sure.
Not really into the whole
atheist thing. It's not a whole atheist thing. So a non-resistant non-believer is somebody who has absolutely no problem with believing in God, maybe even wants to believe in one, maybe desperately wants to believe in one, wants to have a relationship with a God, but just can't see any evidence of one. This may surprise you, but there are many. There are millions, in fact.
I've got a question.
Hang on. It may not... I wonder if you ever considered that listening and waiting to speak are in fact separate activities.
Sure.
So I want you to engage with what I'm saying to you, right?
Sure.
So a non-resistant non-believer is not somebody who's hardened their heart and wants to sin and wants to be their own God. There are many people in the world who desperately would love to know a God, love to have a relationship with a God, but they're just honest. And they look at the world and they don't see evidence of design. They don't see God's handiwork in everything. They don't see a world where the divine obviously exists. Mm-hmm. They see a world that looks exactly as it would look if the divine didn't exist. And
would you say that's you?
Yeah.
Right. So as I said before, how do you believe the world was made?
Well, I don't think the world was made.
So you think it just came out of nothing?
I don't think the world came out of anything. I think that the reality has always been here. We have no reason to think that it ever wasn't. But even if I'm wrong about that,
world's always
hang on.
Bro,
yes, the world has always existed. There was never a point where it didn't. By the world, we mean everything, not just the planet, right?
So you believe the world is God?
No, I don't believe that God is a meaningful term that describes anything. But here's the point that I'm trying to get you to understand. You're pivoting away from what I'm trying to get you to see at the moment. Okay, well, let me pivot you back then, right? What you're failing to understand is what I'm trying to put in front of you is this idea that you're saying here is that there is nobody who looks at the world and doesn't see God, and that leaves absolutely no room for someone being just honestly unconvinced. And this is why this is immoral, because what your religion does is it frames simple non-belief as a criminal act. And this is why you're doing it. Now, you're doing this because the moment you let that go, you have to also let go that it's okay for God to punish people for simply honestly not being convinced. And part of the reason this channel exists is to appeal to people to try and see things a little bit differently, and to understand that there are people who are not bad people. They're not sinful people. They're not people who have hardened hearts. I'm not calm down and listen for a moment. You're all broadcast and no receive right now. I'm trying to give you something valuable. I'm trying to make you see something in the humanity of the people that you share the planet with.
All right, sure. Say your point.
Okay. That's very generous of you. Thank you. I'm trying to show you and help you to see that there are people who don't have hardened hearts turning away from God and wanting to just live in sin. There are people who hear lots and lots and lots of different religious claims. Yours is not the only one we've ever heard. I've heard 1,000 others, just like yours, that all contradict yours, from different religions, different traditions, different interpretations, Catholics, Muslims, Scientologists, Jains, Hindus, Sikhs, all of them, right? Everyone convinced of their own views. And I just listen to their views and I think, I don't find this convincing. It's not because I have a hardened heart. It's because I don't find it convincing. That's the same experience I have when I hear your views.
Wait, first of all, can I deal with your first point? You said that.
Does anyone get the impression that he wasn't listening at all? I get that.
Just waiting for.
Can you repeat back to me? So repeat back to me what I've said to you and what the point. The point I'm making.
Listen to Scientology, Muslims, Hindus,
what's the point I'm making though? What's the broad point I'm making?
Nothing really convinces you, and I want to deal with both your points because you said two specific points.
You think that's the point he asked you with the point he was making, and you said nothing really convinces you.
Let me.
Do you think that was his point?
Is that it?
Bro, he said 2 points, so I've got a question about his first point.
Okay.
He first mentioned that as human beings, he first mentioned there's human beings in this world that don't deserve hellfire because they're sinless, they're good people.
He didn't say that.
And because they don't believe in God, they shouldn't go to hell. So my question to his first point is this: do you think there's people in this world who have never sinned?
I don't believe that sin exists. I think sin is a bullshit religious concept. So yes, I think everyone in the world. I think everyone in the world. I'm answering your question, funnily enough. I think everyone in the world has never sinned. It's like saying, do you think there are people in the world who have never flown on a magic carpet? Yes, everyone in the world has never flown on a magic carpet. Sin is a religious concept, and it's one that I don't accept as being reflective of anything in reality. I think there are people in the world that you think have sinned, and I think that the world is full of people that your special book declared to have sinned, in the same way that there are other religions that claim that you have sinned, or that you violate their rules.
You said with your own mouth that there's people in this world who haven't sinned.
Yes, I've just reiterated it. Nobody has sinned.
I'm asking you again.
Yes.
Do you think there's people in this world who have never sinned?
It's almost like you didn't hear what I just asked, what I just said to you. Yes, I think I got this. Yes, I think the world is full of people who have never sinned. Do you want to hear how many? How many people I think have never sinned?
There we go.
Do you want to hear how many? It's about 8 billion. It's about 8 billion. Plus minus.
You said with your own mouth, there's people in this world who have never sinned.
4 times now. Want to hear it a fifth?
All right, there we go. All right, cool. So you think everyone in this world has never sinned, right?
That's the 6th time. You included, by the way. You've never sinned either. You just think you have.
Right. In your own subjective opinion, I guess.
Yeah, that's the only one I have. So, you asked about my opinion, I gave it to you.
I'll tell you, as a Christian, in the eyes of God, every human being's fallen short.
We know that.
Right.
We know that.
We know your doctrine.
Right. Perfect. So, as you said that people shouldn't go to hell for not believing in God. God doesn't send people to hell for not believing.
You send yourself there because you're a sinner.
Finish my point. Like what?
We've never heard this before, honestly.
Let me. God does not send people into hell for not believing in Him.
Yeah, He does.
He sends them to hell because
their sin. Yes, I know. Because the Bible says all who are born in sin. We understand. Do you think we've not encountered this before?
Oh wow! This is what we're doing. Yeah.
Okay.
The Bible.
We don't need you to tell us what the Bible says. We understand what the Bible says.
All right, you know what? I can't lie. I guess everyone can see we're not getting anywhere. They won't let me speak. This is disingenuous of them both. Have a good day. I can't keep going with this.
First Peter 3:15 says always be willing to
get to scripture.
Always be willing to give a reason, right?
The wages of sin is death. The payment of sin is death.
So did Jesus pay that?
If everyone has sinned,
did Jesus pay that?
Everyone has to pay a wage.
Did Jesus pay it?
Yes, Jesus paid it. Yes,
did he? I heard he was back at work on Monday morning, running around and taking appointments for lunch. He didn't pay it.
This is where we see the disrespect. All right, have a good day.
He had a bad weekend and came back again on Monday morning. That wasn't death. Okay, and out he goes. There we are. So, look, there was not a lot of listening going on in that conversation. We do try to get the balance right and let people speak. I was trying to give him space to speak, but he was just waiting for us to stop speaking so he could start speaking. He wasn't actually responding to anything we were saying. He didn't understand the point about Romans. Romans makes a claim. The claim that Romans makes is that every single person has seen enough to be convinced. And if that were true, then every single person would be convinced. The fact that every single person is not convinced proves that the claim is false. That's just a basic inference rule. In philosophy, in formal logic, that's called modus tollens. It just means that if you say if this, then that, and you don't get the that, it means the if this didn't happen. It's basic stuff. Basic stuff. Okay, as promised, let's get VA David in next on the TikTok side. Hey David.
Hi. So can we agree that we use like our reasoning to get in touch with truth?
We use our reasoning to try.
Not exclusively. Yeah, not exclusively. A lot of people are subject. Well, I think everyone to some degree is subject to motivated reasoning. But in a perfect world, we would use pure reason. But human minds are a little more complex than that. So I'll say generally yes, but with a caveat that there's other factors at play in how people end up forming beliefs.
Okay, so so the external world, what would you say that your reasoning faculties and sensory data was designed in a way to get in touch with the external world?
I don't think it was designed
I don't think it was designed. Yeah. Designed. Saying it was designed is sort of smuggling in, a conscious agent who is designing it. I think our minds evolved in such a way that we have a functional but imperfect. It allows our minds to form a functional but imperfect perception of reality that is accurate enough for us to function.
Okay, so I'm gonna say let me land this point. Okay, so like for example, two walkie-talkies. Walkie-talkie A is made and designed in a way to get in touch with walkie-talkie B, and that's why we have reason to trust that walkie-talkie A is getting in touch with walkie-talkie B. But if you're saying that if your reasoning faculties and sensory data wasn't designed in a way to get in touch with the external world, what reason do you have to trust that it's doing so?
Because evolution works in a way that it logically works in a way that we end up with survival traits, and having a mind that is able to create an accurate perception of reality, I should say accurate enough perception of reality, is a survival trait. So it makes logical sense that our minds would function in such a way.
There's also a difference between trusting your senses and assuming they're infallible. So a reasonable person trusts their senses to the extent that helps them navigate through life, right? Like when you see the edge of the thing you're standing on and you don't want to fall off it, you trust your eyes to move you away from that edge because you don't want to fall off it. If you stop doing that, if you just close your eyes and wander around, you're likely to fall off the edge and hurt yourself, right? So there are strong reasons for trusting your senses, but trusting them doesn't mean that you assume they're right all the time, because there are powerful illusions. There are optical illusions that show you things that clearly aren't there, and our senses sometimes get things wrong, right? As do our reasonings. We can get things wrong using reasoning or sense data, but it's not a reason to distrust them.
Okay, so your sense data, so in the evolutionary framework, okay, evolution isn't like there isn't someone putting the things together in evolution. It's just happening by chance. Like it
doesn't happen by chance. It happens by virtue of the fact that when you have a population and there are variations in the population, some of those variations are going to be better at surviving and producing offspring that carry those variations than others. It isn't random chance. The variations are random chance, but the survival of them is very, very far from random. But let's not drift into a discussion about that. Let's stick here, because we haven't even really touched on what the prompt is, right? You've just come in asking about reasoning. So what do you think?
I am addressing the prompt. I'm presenting an argument.
You haven't even told us whether you're agreeing with it or not yet.
No, I disagree, of course.
Okay.
But I'm presenting an argument right now. Okay, so the thing that you've already presupposed that your sensory data is already getting in touch with the external world. It isn't created for this purpose. Your sensory data and reasoning faculties wasn't intentionally created for this purpose to do such. You've already presupposed it's doing such before without giving me a reason that it's doing such.
We have survival.
We gave you a reason. Yeah. Natural selection.
Okay, what is natural selection?
So basically, survival traits within a given population of a species. Everyone's kind of born different. You take a little from your mom, a little from your dad. There's some unique traits that are your own. Those are like random mutations or what have you. So within a given population, traits that are conducive to survival are those members that have those traits are more likely to live long enough to procreate and pass those traits on to their offspring, thus generating more of a frequency of that trait to exist within the population. That causes changes over time. Us having minds that are able to determine facts of reality, it's imperfect, but that is an actual survival trait. Being able to perceive reality is a survival function.
Okay, can I address that? Okay, you this is the problem. You said that, I read, like, we have these traits. You're begging the question. You're already saying that you have these traits without explaining to me that these traits are actually getting in touch with reality. I'm asking you to give me wait, let me land. I'm asking you to give me a reason they are. You keep saying that, you just keep begging the question, saying that it's already doing the same thing.
David, have you read Plantinga?
No.
Okay, because you may not know this, but you're actually expressing quite a well-known, very famous apologetic. So Alvin Plantinga is a well-known theologian, philosopher, and he has an argument called the evolutionary argument against naturalism, where he's basically saying human brains evolved for survival. They didn't evolve to get you towards truth, right? And therefore, this is the argument you're making. That how do you know your mind is getting you towards what's true? But this is a faulty argument, because it fails to realize that knowing what's true is a necessary component of surviving. If our minds had evolved such that they didn't get us towards truth, we would not have done very well, because we wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a dangerous place and a not dangerous place, a predator and something we might want to hunt ourselves, the poisonous berries and the berries that nurture us, right, and give us health, right? That without being able to discern truth, our brains would have been selected out of the gene pool and would not have been successful. The brains that we were left with, the brains that survived in the evolutionary race, in the competition, in the genetic arms race, were the brains that were able to discern truth. Discerning truth is evolutionarily adaptive, and that's why our brains can do it, and that's why this entire argument fails dismally.
I'll tell you why it doesn't fail. Okay, so your senses and your reasoning wasn't designed to do this. Okay, it wasn't designed to do this. So I'm not asking you. I don't think it was designed at all. Wait. Let me just land. So I'm asking you, what reason? If it wasn't designed to do this specific thing, what reason do you have to believe it's doing this?
Okay, so
wait. Let me land. I let you guys.
I think all right. I think I got you. Go ahead.
Then you're now saying, it's because of like survival, and when you say because of survival, then you presuppose that your senses are already getting in touch with the external world when you're giving me reasons of how you're determining truth. You're already presupposing that it is getting in touch with the external world, but it wasn't designed to do this. So I'm asking you, give me a reason why they're doing this. You keep just saying, it's already doing it.
We have provided this. Can you remember what it was?
I think I see the disconnect. I think I see the disconnect.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, so I think I see the disconnect. So in a sense, the only reason we're avoiding the word designed is because designed is suggesting a thinking agent consciously made a decision to make something a certain way. Like if I'm going to design this car to be faster than this car. That's the only reason we're avoiding the word designed. In the same way, we would say like a cheetah is the fastest land animal. I'm like 99% sure, but I could be wrong. But let's say it is. A cheetah is the fastest land animal. We also say the cheetah wasn't designed to run fast. However, it does run fast. And the reason it runs fast is because of natural selection through biological. It's one of the mechanisms of biological evolution. In the same way, humans and other species of animals have minds that are able to create a perception of reality. Like if a gazelle sees a lion coming at it, it's going to run away, have that fear response, because that is also a survival trait, to be able to have that perception of reality and react to reality as it's happening. So we're just saying it wasn't designed just as a means of saying the cause of these survival traits isn't a thinking agent deciding to make something a certain way. It's just natural selection. Do you understand?
I want to address the example you just gave me. Okay, so look, you just said that the cheetah is running fast. It's the fastest land animal. Okay, now this is the argument I'm presenting right now. You have already made the claim that the cheetah is the fastest land animal. My question is your epistemology. Okay. How do you know it is the fastest land animal?
Oh dear. Wait. This road just leads to solipsism. No one is interested.
No, I want to give my argument, man. How you don't? It's an epistemological. I'm addressing the example he just gave me. Let me address it.
It's a car crash that no one wants to see.
Let me address the example he just gave, please.
Must you?
Oh my days.
It's dull.
He just gave me a point. I want to respond to and show how.
Your response is how do you know there is a cheetah? How do you know there is a physical world? How do you know that you're? Yeah, it's a poor argument. We were making these arguments. This is teenage. We've just discovered philosophy arguments.
You haven't let me land, bro.
Your plane's crashing. It's not landing.
I want to show you how you keep begging the question. He keeps presupposing his senses are doing such without proving it is. So I want to address the example you just gave.
But we've already shown how this works.
No, you haven't, because that's why I'm trying to break it down and show you how you haven't done that.
I admit I can't prove I'm not a brain in a vat. So can you prove that we are not brains in vats?
Okay,
or that you're not a brain in a vat.
Wait. I'm attacking your worldview. This has nothing to do with the Christian worldview. You said
so you don't want to answer. So you don't want to answer. Okay,
because it has nothing. The topic has nothing to do with.
Great. Then there's no reason not to answer it.
Look at the topic, bro. Why are you asking me about my worldview? It's about your worldview.
This is dull. Let's
try
and focus
you don't want
up
to answer
here.
questions.
I want to.
We're going to focus up here. We're going to focus up here a minute.
A forced rhetorical laugh
You're not letting me. You didn't even let me address your example. You didn't let me address it.
I'm going to give you 1 minute, literally 1 minute. Okay, and we all know where your argument's going, because you think do you think you're the first person to come in here and say, how can you trust your senses?
Bro, let me just respond.
I'm going to give you a minute to make the conversation to make the point that we all know you're about to make. It's going to be dull, but we're going to hold our breaths and let you do it, and then we'll move on from there. So off you go.
Okay, thank you. So guys, if you remember the example he gave me, he said that, the cheetah is the fastest land animal. So he's made that claim that the cheetah is the fastest land animal. He's already presupposed that his sensory data and his reasoning faculties he's already presupposed they're true in a sense to do these calculations to reason that it is. My question is, how does he know that it is? He's already presupposed his sensory data and reasoning faculties are true to do such, but they weren't designed in a way to do this. So I'm asking him, what reason does he have to trust that his reasoning faculties and sensory data is even getting in touch with the external world? The problem we're facing right now is that he keeps on presupposing they're doing it. Right. Because in the example he gave, he said that, we say that the cheetah is the fastest land animal. Bro, okay. I'm not questioning I'm questioning how do you know these things?
So in other words, exactly the argument that I told you were about to make, wherein you say, how can we even know that the impressions we're getting of reality are tracking anything in the outside world in objectivity? That's exactly the argument that I was trying to save us some time without you having to make. It can be addressed as follows, right? This is not complicated. The argument you're making just leads to solipsism. It leads to, as Sean said, brains in a vat. It leads to, how can you know for sure that all the impressions you're getting about reality aren't just in your own mind? This is something that teenagers do when they first discover that conversations can extend beyond sports and girls, right? I don't mean to, or boys, right? This is basic stuff. The answer is we don't know for sure. We cannot ever know for sure. right? You can't know, I can't know. This is why 10 minutes ago, Sean was trying to cut this off at the pass and save everyone some time by saying, we don't know, we're not brains in vats. But what we do is we proceed on the assumption that there is a physical reality, because if you don't do that, you don't survive long. You still feel hungry. If I say to you now, just to start assuming that your own most basic needs for food and comfort and shelter and physical safety are just illusions, right? Just start doing that now. And next time you feel hungry, just don't eat, because you don't know for a fact that your hunger isn't just a projection of your mind. What's going to happen is you're going to start feeling pain quite quickly. You're going to feel the pain of hunger. You're going to feel the pain of not having your needs met. And we don't want to feel pain. We want to survive. So even if it's the case that every impression we get of reality is an illusion, we are still incentivized to behave as if they're real, because we want to avoid suffering. And so we make the assumption as a kind of tentative assumption, an operating basis, that our impressions of the world reflect something that is really there. Okay? Is that fair? Do you understand the response?
I'm going to refute it by just some.
You're not going to.
I'll let you speak, mate.
But the thing is, this is wildly outside of the scope of the discussion.
It is, man.
Because
I'm showing how atheism can't account for knowledge, mate.
Well, that's a different subject, right? How atheism can't account for knowledge is just presupping. So you're now moving from Plantinga's argument against naturalism to presuppositionalism. Which lane would you like to be in,
bro? The topic right now is atheism cannot be wrong. If I showed how atheism can't account for knowledge, that means atheism is wrong because they can't know anything. And that's my argument.
But you won't be able to account for atheism. You won't be able to prove that atheism can't account for knowledge.
That's what I'm doing. That's why I'm trying to respond to what you're saying.
Because I'm prepared to. Have you ever read Descartes?
Oh, can you let me respond to what you just said, mate?
Have you read Descartes?
Oh my God!
I'm going to take that to be a no. I'm going to take that to be a no. So we're not claiming that we need to know things for certain. I've just explained to you that we don't need to hold our assumptions about the objective world.
The argument you just gave me. I'll let you speak.
Yeah.
Let me
respond to my argument, saying that we don't need to hold it as knowledge in order to make it rational to assume it's true.
Okay, bro. So this guy, let me show you guys the issue right now.
Can you not eat while you're talking to the audience?
Okay, my fault.
All right.
Okay, let me show you guys the issue right now. We know that certainty exists, okay? But now the host is saying that we can't know anything for certain, okay?
We don't know that absolute certainty exists.
Let me land.
Well, hold on. If you're saying something we don't agree with, if you say something, hold on. If you misrepresent what our position is, then we should be able to correct it before you move on. You said we, our pronoun we, know that certainty exists. John and I don't hold.
I said you don't know that. I said you guys said you don't hold that certainty.
Maybe you misspoke, or maybe I misheard you. So we got clarification. But I swear I heard you say we know that certainty exists.
Wait. Like when I was talking, yeah, you're right. I said we, like when I was saying that I was talking from like my own perspective. I apologize, but
okay. You believe certainty exists. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I hold that certainty exists, but he's saying that certainty, nobody can be certain about anything. Now I'm going to show you guys the issue right now. Are you certain that nobody can be certain about anything? Yeah. Because wait, let me land. Because this is the thing. It's like saying that truth doesn't exist. Are you true? Or is it true that truth doesn't exist?
There is a unique pleasure in hearing. Hang on a second.
Let me land.
You're gonna. I know it's very generous of you to let me speak on my live stream. There is a genuine pleasure in listening to a young person pronounce these basic philosophical games that we all used to play 20 or 30 years ago, and pronouncing them like nobody's thought of them before. It's so adorable. Okay, all right. You're landing gears down. Land the plane. Go on then.
Oh my gosh! So guys, host said that we cannot be certain about anything. Okay, now this is the thing. He's using certainty while denying certainty. Because I'm going to ask him this. Are you certain that you cannot be certain about anything?
Of course. No one's ever asked me that. Yes, of course. So, okay, I will answer the question. I have never made the claim that we can't be certain about anything. I made the claim.
You literally did.
I made the claim. that statements about the outside world. And okay, now you're going to just listen.
You're lying.
Okay,
You're lying.
so I made the claim that statements about the outside world can't be made with certainty. That statements about objective reality outside of us can't be made with certainty. But of course, there are some things that are certain. We can be certain about analytical truths. We can be certain about things that are necessarily true. For example, we can be sure, for example, that we can be certain that the laws of logic apply. For example, we can be certain that something cannot be and not be at the same time. There are classes of propositions about which we can be certain. But statements about the outside world, you came in speaking about sense data and asking, how can we be sure about our sense data? And my statement about certainty was in response to your specific question about our sense data, to which the answer remains, we cannot be certain about our sense data.
Okay, you said you cannot be certain about anything in the external world, right?
Correct.
Is logic in the external world?
No. Logic is essentially a set of linguistic conventions that determine whether propositions make sense and how they're connected.
Okay, what's the laws of logic?
They are the law of identity, of non-contradiction, and excluded middle.
So the law of non-contradiction the law of non-contradiction doesn't exist in the external world?
Correct. You're now switching to tag. So you're now switching to tag. You're now trying to just run tag.
No.
What's tag? What's tag?
Wait.
David, what's tag?
So a contradiction can exist in the external world?
David, what is tag?
Wait, answer my question. So a contradiction can exist in the external world?
I'm trying to frame this for you. What is tag? What does tag stand for?
You just said the laws of logic
I'm trying to ascertain for anyone whether you know what you're talking about here. So what is tag?
I'm presenting the argument, man.
What's the name of
answer my question, bro?
So you've just flipped away from the argument against naturalism. You briefly went into
an argument against naturalism.
a general precept argument about how we can't have knowledge, and now you're flipping into tag. So you're using all of these arguments, but you don't know what they are, do you?
Oh my days, bro! It's because you made a.
What is tag?
No. Wait.
What is tag? What is tag? What is tag? It's a simple question. What is tag? Just answer the question,
bro.
What is tag? What is tag?
Sean,
if you're stuck on stupid, let us know by not answering.
Sean,
what is tag?
He brought up the laws of logic. He said that there's things that you can't be certain about. Okay, I'm addressing it.
What is tag? Just answer the question. What is tag? I actually know why John is asking this question. What is tag? What is tag?
He made a point.
Just say it. Just say it. Say it. Or say I don't know. If you don't know, we'll explain it. What is tag?
This has nothing to do with my point, bro.
It does. It does.
Great. Then you shouldn't be afraid to answer.
No,
what is tag?
The host made a point, and I'm responding to his point.
Literally, it's a three-letter acronym.
And there's a reason.
You could have just answered the entire time.
And there's a reason I asked the question. There is a reason I asked, David.
You said that you can be.
David, we're not going to move on. We're not going to move on until we address this, because I actually asked the reason. I asked the question for a reason, David. So you're either going to say I don't know, or you're going to give us the answer. And then I'll tell you why I asked.
Okay. If I say I don't know, what's so deep about it?
Just say you don't know.
Okay,
because this has nothing to do with
it hard for you to admit
that's fine. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you. Now I'm going to tell you what it has to do with your point and why I asked. I didn't ask to try and one-up you. I asked because the argument you're developing has a name. It's called the transcendent argument for God.
Okay,
right?
Then address my argument.
Transcendental argument for God. Now, the reason why I asked you about that is because if you're going to make the argument, you should be familiar with it, familiar enough to name it, and familiar enough to have read some of the objections to it.
Appealing to people,
right? So you're currently making an argument now that you're unfamiliar with, and it's one that we've addressed many, many, many times before.
No, you haven't.
No, I haven't. I've put out videos specifically about why tag doesn't work. You're just swimming in waters that are a little too deep for you right now.
Okay, I'll let you speak, then I'll respond, okay?
It's enormously generous of you. So you're trying to make the claim right now, right, that transcendentals exist, that these category of things like laws of logic exist in the world and therefore require a designer. That's the argument you're making. right now. You may not know it, but that is the argument you're making. And the reason it doesn't work is because we don't grant that these things exist in the same way that other things exist. Like laws of logic don't have the same type of existence as tables or mountains, which are things that are located in time and space, or even radio waves that we can say have a certain type of physical existence, right? These things don't exist in the way that you want them to, and therefore this argument just doesn't work. And until you can demonstrate that they do exist, you don't have an argument.
Okay. So there's an external world outside of yourself, right?
We presume so.
What do you mean you presume?
We've been over this already. If you've forgotten it, rewind the video when you watch it back later.
So are you saying that it's probable that there's an external world?
Yeah.
What basis are you using to make this probability?
Just induction.
Using your reasoning and sensory data, your reasoning faculties, right?
Yeah, and I'm open to the possibility there may not be one. But as I explained earlier, we proceed on the assumption that there is one. Otherwise, it hurts, and we don't want to be hurt.
So this presupposition is baseless because your reasoning faculties were not made in a way to do such. You have no reason to believe it.
We're back on the Plantinga again now. We've abandoned tag, we've abandoned the general presup stuff, and now we're back on Plantinga. Okay, we'll stick on Plantinga then for a while. So the reason why our senses evolved to tell the difference between what's true and what's not true is because it confers a survival advantage doing that. If our senses were not able to differentiate truth from fiction, we would have been selected out the gene pool. And those ancestors of ours who were not able to do that did get selected out the gene pool.
Basically,
you're already presupposing that your sensory data and reasoning faculties is doing such. I'm asking you to give me a reason it's doing such. You're saying it's not.
He gave you a reason. So here's the thing: hang on. We're both giving two different reasons why we can trust our sensory perception. So we are saying it's a survival trait through natural selection, which we can show biological evolution through a mountain of evidence is actually the case. You're claiming we can trust it because God gave us our mental faculties.
Because it was designed. It was purposed to do such.
Yeah, so let me finish. All right, so we're given two completely different competing ideas. One, our sensory data is a result of natural selection, which we can actually show to be true, and we can get into all the evidences for biological evolution, etc. You're saying God did it. It was freaking God magic. What is your evidence that it was God magic?
I have not made any claim, and this has nothing to do with my worldview.
Oh, okay, so what causes you to be able to trust
you how your worldview is false? Don't try to switch it on me, bro.
Okay, so in other words, you're afraid to answer questions.
No,
you're
switching the topic. You're the coward here.
No, that's the topic. So, you asked us to account for why we should be able to trust our mental faculties. Yes, I'm asking you the same question. I'm asking you to why you think we can trust our mental faculties. Go ahead.
Sean, look at the topic. What does it say? Atheism. This has nothing to do with Christianity.
I'm sorry. Did you think that was an answer to the question? You asked us why we can trust. So notice that the atheists were able to respond and answer the same question, and the Christian is avoiding answering the question. Why do you think we can trust our mental faculties?
This has nothing to do with Christianity. I want to make it
fair enough. Well, if it has nothing to do with Christianity, we're going to move on. So I did put a poll to the room, and it came back astonishingly high for please can we move on from this as the conversations approach the half-hour mark. And he said himself has nothing to do with Christianity. So that's the kind of the topic we're here to talk about. So he was calling in to talk about something that was nothing to do with God belief. So time to move on, I think.
Yeah.
There we are. Well, thank you, David, for calling in. I appreciate that you wanted to land your plane. Unfortunately, the landing gear was not down at the point of impact. It didn't go well. Okay, we are going to move on. And we're going to stay on the TikTok side for now and bring in Vitor Serrano, who has been waiting in the queue for a little while. We'll try not to let the conversations go on for too long. That went on a little bit longer than it really should have done, especially with such poor comms happening. But anyway, there we are. Vitor, welcome in.
Hello, guys. How are you guys?
We are good. It sounds like you're somewhere a little bit noisy. If there's any chance you could get somewhere a bit quieter, Because we might struggle to hear you.
I just finished my lunch here in Portugal. I'm smoking my cigarette.
That's lovely, but if you could get somewhere quieter, we'll be able to hear you better.
No, I can't. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, let's see how we go.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So, you guys are atheists.
We are.
Yeah. But you keep your mind open.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you keep your mind? Okay, great. That's great. So, I'm not a mathematician, but I've seen some videos about the probabilities of life becoming to existence and the probabilities of the fine-tuning. And it is so ridiculous to even think that the Big Bang, for example, came from the nothingness.
Right.
Are you going to tell me that there was something else? The quantum energy, whatever. You're going to tell me that means that something was existing. But
sure.
I said
you've gone three directions already here.
Okay. You explain me.
You stick to one.
How does the universe exist, and how did life came to being?
Okay, hold on. For one at a time. How does the universe exist? I don't know. It could be that the universe has always
existed.
Regarding
the numbers.
Let me finish.
The numbers, if you know them.
Please stop talking over me. All right, so I'm trying to answer your question. You went to fine-tuning, you went to why is there something rather than nothing, which is essentially what you're asking, why does the universe exist, etc. You're going different directions. Let's stick to one. So you asked, how does the universe exist? I don't know. It could be that the universe has always existed eternally into the past. I don't know the answer to that question. If you are claiming, one, that the universe had a beginning, and two, that the God was the one who created the universe, and there wasn't some natural cause, for example, the onus is on you to demonstrate those two things. Can you do so? You have to unmute yourself.
I don't know if I understood your question, but I'm trying to answer now. So I do believe that there is a super dimension where time and space have no meaning.
So nothing happens there, and it's not located anywhere. God lives there for 0 seconds.
God is above all dimensions.
So God can't do anything. So God can't do anything. Correct?
He is a spirit.
Yeah, spirit, but he can't. That's wonderful. He's magic, but he can't do anything because doing something requires a sequencing of events, doesn't it? To think about doing it, to start doing it, to be doing it, to finish doing it. If he lives outside of time, then that means there's no sequencing of events, and God can't do anything. So you've just defined him completely out of existence. Oops! Bye, God.
No, that's not the way you solve the question.
It's not an attempt to solve the question. It just follows naturally from what you've declared. If you said God exists outside of time, that means that he has no sequencing of events.
To me, yes, because he's supernatural. It's
just magic. I see. Oh, okay, it's just magic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can call it if you rather that word. Yes.
Right. Do grown-ups believe in? Do grown-ups believe in magic?
Oh, so this is your problem. Is thinking that we are kids. So tell me how come the most intelligent brains in this world believe in Jesus? Tell me
the most intelligent brains in this world are not making asinine claims like God exists in some kind of way where there's no sequencing, no sequencing of events. Most of the more sophisticated theologians don't say stuff like that because they realize it's bullshit. To say God exists outside of space and outside of... funnily enough, when my mouth is moving and sounds are coming out, it's amazing. When my mouth is moving and sounds are coming out, that means I'm talking. So what we do in a conversation is we listen to each other speak and then we respond to each other. So the point I'm making is that if you're claiming that God exists outside of space and time, that would mean that he can't do anything. Because to do something, to even have a thought, requires the passage of time. It's the sequencing of events.
Wrong assumption.
You can respond now.
You're taking time to make wrong assumptions. That's why I was trying to cut you the same way you did with the other guys before me. Okay? So this is the reason why. Let's be fair, okay? So explain to me how the scientists say that the Big Bang, when it happened, it gave birth to time itself.
Actually, that's false,
Explain
and I'll show you. I'll actually, that's false, and I'll show you.
Now I'm the false one. Now I'm the false one.
You've asked a question. You've asked a question. You're going to get an answer.
You are not a partial.
Yeah, so you're going to get. So
you are not the partial moderator, are you?
Actually, I am.
You are not the partial moderator.
Okay, so I'm going to answer your question. So what you're saying is factually wrong. So this is from a survey of physicists. There's a whole bunch of different questions that they ask physicists at the Copenhagen Convention regarding the different aspects of physics. So this question here, the meaning of the Big Bang. So here's a summary, and I'll show you the data below. The Big Bang, making no claim about whether time had a beginning or not, should be understood only as the theory that says the universe evolved from a hot, dense state, enjoys a rare majority support of 68%. So here's the data down here from physicists who says, so here we go, meaning of Big Bang. A theory that says the universe evolved from a hot, dense state that says nothing about whether there was an absolute beginning of time or not. That's 68%. You can see right here, that's a large majority. So that's the Copenhagen, survey of physicists, showing that you are actually wrong about what physicists conclude on that. And I can go even further. And by the way, were you guys able to see that, John, when I was showing it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, good. I can go further and I can pull up all kinds of different quotes from different physicists, from Alan Green to Sean Carroll, and on, several of them. I actually have quotes saved where they say they don't know if the universe had a beginning or if it existed eternally. So do you admit you were wrong on that?
Dude, how can I be wrong if you are just resuming your opinion based on only one document? I'm telling you, I've heard scientists talk about this in several videos. Are you going to say that I am lying now?
No, you're not lying. But the document that Sean showed you, the document that Sean showed you, reflects the majority view. It reflects the majority view amongst experts in this area. It's the majority. It's the current consensus.
It does not say that time did not became to existence with the.
They said they don't know. They don't know.
Exactly.
Right. You're claiming to know what.
You go see what they say.
You're claiming to know what physicists don't claim to know, and a majority of them don't believe. And a majority of them do not believe that the Big Bang was necessarily the beginning of time. A large majority of them. And I can go further and I can show you some quotes from, we have Alan Green. No one knows what was before the universe. One possibility is the universe always existed. When it comes to the universe, it may be that the universe didn't have a beginning, as always was. And on. We have Sean Carroll, Brian Cox, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yes.
You have several minds that say that time does not even exist. It's an illusion of our minds.
Okay, so are you pivoting? Are you pivoting now?
No, pivoting. No. You are distorting what I'm saying because you are using one document, and you're saying that you are making what you say in English.
That one document. How many documents did you use?
My friend, I'm telling you, I've seen it in several videos. I've seen it in several videos, and I'm telling you, the greatest minds all believe in Jesus. How this is possible?
The greatest minds all believe in Jesus. Fantastic.
Yes.
I loved how we slipped. We slipped from the start of time to the greatest minds all believe in Jesus. Well, that settles it then.
Which I don't believe is necessarily.
Who is the greatest IQ in the world? Who is the greatest IQ in the world? Who is the greatest of IQ in the world in all history until now?
Probably someone like Einstein, but who knows? Now, IQ is also IQ is also a measurement of a very particular type of thing. So let's not get silly. Now, what I'm going to say is at this point, Einstein's a kid.
Einstein
Wonderful.
believed in a God.
No, he didn't. Now, we've drifted slightly from the main topic here, which actually isn't really a discussion about our views on cosmology or anything. We're making a slightly broader claim here, which is that atheism can't be wrong. And what I mean by that is not... I'm just going to mute you because the background noise is absolutely horrific. You can unmute yourself when you have something to say.
Guys,
yeah, just stay there for a moment because I'm just trying to get rid of the background noise while I clarify this, right? So... I'm just going to put you on mute if you don't mind.
I also need to go to work.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, see you later then.
Okay.
Okay. Cheers. There you go. So the claim here isn't just, we're flipping easily into, are we justified in thinking that atheists have it right? That isn't quite what I'm saying here. I know it reads that way, and I understand why it does, but that isn't really what I'm saying. I'm saying it can't be wrong. It can't be immoral. It can't be punished. And it even isn't really a statement about what's true. It's a statement about what someone believes. And so when someone identifies as an atheist, they're just telling you what they find convincing. And that's really the point I'm trying to push here. Let's get Steve up from the TikTok side and see what Steve has to say. Hopefully in a less noisy environment. Hi, Steve. Steve, are you there? Apparently not. Steve, you're up and you're live right now. So maybe you called up by mistake. I'm going to assume you did, and Steve is now going to go back down again. That was interesting. Okay, let's get in JD Tallproof. Bringing in JD Tallproof right now. Hey JD, are you there? Hello.
Hi, I've literally just stumbled across your debate channel. It's actually been brilliant to watch. I am a practicing Christian as well. I kind of wanted to elaborate on that guy from Portugal's point with the Big Bang Theory. So, you guys, is that the theory that you guys subscribe to? Sort of the Big Bang Theory?
Yeah. At the moment, you sound like you're coming through a 1950s transistor radio. Is there anything you can do to improve the sound?
Let me give that a try and take my earphones off and go on speaker. I think that might be better.
It's just we're struggling to make you out a bit. Yeah, it's not pretty to listen to. Sadly, no worries.
Okay, let me know if that's any better.
A lot better, thank you.
That's a lot better.
Sorry about that.
Right. So sorry.
So yeah,
go again.
I find that whole as practicing atheists, you guys believe that the Big Bang Theory is
there's no such thing as a practicing atheist. There's nothing. Yeah. It's like a practicing non-fisherman.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm a practicing a leprechaunist. I don't believe in leprechauns.
Okay, brilliant. So it's what's the word? Almost the antithesis of theology, I guess.
We're just people who don't accept these religious claims, so we can leave it as that.
Fair enough.
So forgive me for interjecting. Off you go.
So for me, the Big Bang Theory says that it came from a central hot mass of infinite density that then exploded.
No. So it doesn't say the universe came from that. All it says is the observable portion of the universe. And we can only see out so far for a couple of reasons. As far as we can see is called the event horizon. But the parts of the universe that we can actually observe was all in a hot, dense state about 13.8 billion years ago. And there was a rapid expansion. And physicists it's often described as an explosion, but physicists often correct that and just refer to it and say it wasn't an actual explosion. It was a rapid expansion. But it says nothing. But the discussion we got into last time was basically me showing that the majority of physicists do not believe it says anything about, like, it wasn't necessarily the beginning of time or time space or what have you. And in fact, it could be that the universe goes eternally into the past. I'm not making that claim because physicists don't even know that. There's multiple models of the universe. Some posit an infinite universe into the past, some posit a finite universe.
Yeah, so I think to a certain extent the unknown becomes a factor for me as a practicing Christian. So as I would observe it, I mean, first off, Genesis, the first 7 days, that a lot of theologians could describe that as quite illustrative, if that makes sense. And who's to say that the two theories don't align, that the rapid expansion of the universe equates to the 7 days that God created heaven and earth and the universe itself.
But there's problems with that. You'd have to really try to squint, because it's basically saying, here's an order of God speaking these things into existence, etc., and seeing that it's good. And it has, like, for example, in Genesis 1, plants existing before the sun and the rest of the stars on Earth. And there's multiple problems with this. One, we can see solar systems forming through accretion, what's called accretion distance, gravity acting upon matter, and it starts spinning. And anyway, I don't want to get into the weeds with that, but like, without a sun, how does photosynthesis happen? And then also the temperature would be like near absolute zero, which no life, including especially plants, would be able to survive. Like, you'd have to really squint to try to say Genesis 1 is describing the Big Bang.
Yeah. I think to make a direct correlation, probably not. That's why I kind of make the point that the Bible may be more illustrative in those first 7 days, rather than more direct, which is where, I don't know, call it artistic license of God or artistic license of the authors who wrote Genesis.
Yeah, but what reason do we have to believe any of that's true, though? Like, that God exists, is responsible for the Big Bang? That, I mean, we could go a lot of directions, but...
Yeah. I think the theory I subscribe to, again, is if we get to that central hot mass, we don't know what governed the laws that created the expansion and what governed those laws, and so on and so on. Whereas I think Christianity puts it more definitively, if that makes sense. It puts this is the be-all and end-all. I mean, you could also argue the question of who created God. And that one I can't answer.
Are you saying we don't know what created the laws of nature, and so therefore God?
Yeah, I think that's the point I'm making. Is God explains it more? What's the word? Christianity, or the theory of a God controlling the universe, is more definitive than saying, well, the universe just expanded.
Well, so if you can't substantiate your explanation, you haven't actually provided one, right?
Yeah, and it's power to explain something. Doesn't mean it's true. Like, if I come home, if I leave the kitchen messy, and then I come home and the kitchen is clean, and I propose a team of magic pixies came in and cleaned the kitchen, that perfectly explains what I've seen. It doesn't provide a basis to believe that claim is true, right? So you can propose a God that has huge explanatory power, but it actually explains nothing, because it's just a made-up story that fills the gap where an explanation really ought to be. The question is, what's the basis for thinking it's true? Is that any more believable than any other candidate explanations that might be around? How have we excluded the competing candidate hypotheses? And what other candidate hypotheses may we not even have thought of yet?
I think
why would we lean into 2,000-year-old Middle Eastern myths as being the one that's likely to be the actual correct answer there?
Yeah. I would probably make the same argument to atheism in the subscription, that why do we also lean into that? I mean, yes, we have the scientific evidence.
Atheism isn't making any claims. Atheism is not making any claims.
Right.
It doesn't.
And there's where your argument that atheism cannot be wrong. Is that kind of the basis of what you mean?
Partly, yeah. And I mean, I have a double meaning to wrong. So I mean wrong. I mainly mean wrong morally, but I also mean wrong in the sense that if someone tells you they're just not convinced of the claim you're saying, it's like, it's reflecting somebody's inability to be convinced by a story they've been told. That can't be wrong. They just are unconvinced, right? And then the second meaning of it being morally not being able to be wrong follows from that.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Again, what's the word? I want to, as a practice, what's the word? I'm a Christian, but I'm not someone who will shove it down your throat. I'm someone that's gone through, things in their life that could make me question my faith, or I've gone through structured debates that help me be open with someone. I'm not here to shove my opinion down your throat, if that makes sense.
We appreciate that. No one's going to be doing any shoving. That's great. No, we appreciate that.
I would rather practice my brain, if that makes sense. I would rather learn more about the other opinion.
Well, that's
I genuinely really appreciate your talk.
No, that's a win. That's why I kind of joined
you guys.
That's a win for you. But what I would say is, when you say, well, you're not there to sort of push Christianity down people's throats, that's fine. But depending on what you mean by practicing, when you say you're a practicing Christian, right, there is an obligation for you biblically to do exactly that, and to spread the word, and to save souls, and to bring people to Christ. And what gets worse is that the central doctrine of Christianity is that people who aren't convinced of the same things that perhaps you might be deserve to be punished. That is at the center of Christianity, right? If you don't believe the right things about Jesus, you're going to hell. You're not saved. And the way you get saved is by believing things. Believing Jesus died for you, believing you're a sinner, believing that these things are actually true. But what if you can't believe them? What if you just have tried, maybe you've considered them, and you just haven't been convinced that they're true? Then what?
Yeah, when I first joined, it was the person who made the argument that we observe God in nature.
We've dispatched that, haven't we?
Therefore,
Romans 1,
yeah,
right?
It was Romans 10, wasn't it?
Romans 1:18.
I find that interesting because I see God in nature, but I don't see it as obvious. It's more, again, a bit more illustrative even, where you look at a leaf on a tree and it makes you feel a certain way. And some people may not share that. I suppose that's where my faith gets tested a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so you would have to accept that for someone else may not see it that way. You might look at a leaf and go, that's powerful evidence of God. I look at a leaf and go, that's powerful evidence of evolution. I think it's amazing that trees evolved how they are, to do photosynthesis and to get the nutrients they need to grow from sunlight and pulling it out of the ground. And I think that's incredible. And I'm fascinated in the history of how that type of mechanism for survival evolved and happened. I think it's incredible, but I don't see any magic there. I don't see God. I don't see any intelligent design, nothing like that. So it brings us back again to the central moral question, right? Which is, if someone looks at nature and looks at everything and just doesn't see any gods, or they used to and then they reconsider, like Sean used to be a believer, I never have been, and Sean was. And so we've come to our points of non-belief along different paths. But the thing that the two paths have in common is they both involve intellectual honesty, right? The honesty of looking at the world and going, you know what, I'm not convinced anymore about this, in Sean's case. And in my case, never having been a believer one day in my life, I've never found any arguments for any gods or any evidence remotely convincing. Even as a child, I always thought it was a slightly silly idea. And I have done all my life, right? And here we are in the same place, both of us just by being honest. And what Christianity says, and Islam, by the way, is that honesty is a capital offense. That honesty is something that requires you to be set on fire by Jesus. He loves you very, very much, but he's going to burn you forever because of what you happen to find convincing. Does that strike you as being morally okay?
No, funnily enough, but I don't think it's, I don't think it's the will of God in it. How do I explain this without sounding really stupid?
I appreciate that you're trying.
Yeah. For me, I guess it wasn't the fault of God, but it kind of was. Because in that faith, God gave us choice, because without choice, we can't engage in a loving relationship with him. Love is, Love is meaningless without choice. To choose against is, I suppose, to side against God. But I don't want to get too preachy with you, but that's the theory I subscribe to.
If you convince us that God exists, did you violate our free will?
No, because you still chose that. You just chose that on the basis of a very, what I would think is an extremely compelling argument.
Well, okay. So no. If God convinces us God exists, did he violate our free will?
No, again, because if God convinces you that he exists, it was kind of your choice to be convinced, because you have free will. You have the idea of going, no, I still...
Notwithstanding, so it's not really a choice. You're either convinced or not. However,
this is fact.
However, we do agree that if God convinces us God exists, it doesn't violate free will, free choice, any of that. So why doesn't God do that for the entire planet?
Oh, that's a question I could not answer. It is beyond me. And I think it's part of where I justify Christian faith as well. I go beyond, what's the word?
Yeah,
maybe something more factual, but again, it leans into what you guys would perceive as, it's just magic. How would you believe that?
But if God is all powerful, he'd be able to do it. And so that's a major problem, I think, because the whole concept is that God wants a relationship with all of us. If I had a long lost son who didn't know I exist, let's say his mom said I passed away or something like that, and I just found out I have a long lost son and I want a relationship with him, the first thing I'm going to do is let him know, like, hey, you have a father, I'm here. And then it's up to him whether he decides he wants a relationship with me or not. But if I don't show him I exist, he can't have a relationship with me because he doesn't know I exist. So that's another problem with belief-based salvation, is that God is like going to punish non-believers, but he does nothing to actually show the non-believers that he exists. He can't try and fail to show us that he exists if he's all powerful. He just didn't try.
Yeah, I mean, again, it probably goes back to that Romans 10 thing where the opportunity is there to view it in nature. And I think using your analogy here, a son may require more convincing if he's lived his life without a father. He may require more, something more substantial.
And if I'm not powerful, I would have a 100% certain chance to convince him that I exist and that I am his father.
Yeah.
Right. So that's something to think about. And I appreciate that you're honest that you don't have a good answer now, but it's something to chew on.
Yeah. Again, this is why I'm here. It's an exercise in my brain, and I feel like you guys might have wanted a more civil discussion.
No, this is civil. This is very
civil. He's saying that it might have been time to have a civil one, and that's why he's come up. We appreciate you, JD.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been. These are the kinds of conversations we like having. The crash outs are funny and amusing and all of that, but actually, we prefer to have conversations with people who are genuinely engaging.
We'll have anything convincing enough for all of you to make that point. And I can respect that you're solid in your opinion, and I hope you can respect that I am solid in mine.
Of course.
I just, like the idea of having an intellectual discussion about it, and I really appreciate that.
Sure.
I do have to go back to work, but honestly, I will stay tuned in. You guys have been an absolute pleasure to watch. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in, JD. Call back anytime. Thank you, friend.
Thanks.
Good stuff. Okay, JD goes off. Right, I've been extremely remiss. We'll do bingo, and then I've got a bunch of super chats to read. So we'll do bingo first, get through some chats, and then we'll get our next guest in. We've got a few in the queue. We will get to everyone, I promise. I've got a hard cut-off today funnily enough, in an hour's time. I've only got an hour left to do. For those of you who didn't get the update, it's a shorter day stream today because real life stuff calls, but then I will be streaming again this evening at 4 p.m. Eastern time. That's 9 p.m. UK time. A joint stream with Justin, Deconstruction Zone. We are going to be raising some money. We'll be doing calls, the normal thing, debates, speaking to people, all of that good stuff. But we're raising money to help out Radio Spencer, who's a good friend of ours, an amazing voice in this community. He's having a horrendous time at the moment, and we are coming together to try and help him out a little bit. So that's happening later on. But let me not get too behind on everything here. So, bingo! We've had a bunch of calls. This is crazy. I think we've only got three left by the looks of this. I'll get through them. Pastor Fairy was the first call with Heinrich to say nothing comes from nothing. Good stuff. And Kirby called You Can't Prove God Doesn't Exist with David. And Pastor Fairy called Look at the Trees with Doberman. And also Kif also called that, but just a fraction afterwards. So it went to Pastor Fairy. Elizabeth B called Crying About the Meta with Doberman. That definitely happened. And Elizabeth also called Read It in Context. The classics never fail, do they? Isa called You Send Yourself to Hell with Doberman as well. Doberman was a rich seam, a generous provision of bingo calls here. Pastor Ferry called Crash Out with Doberman. I think that's also fair. Here's the crash. There it is. And Pastor Ferry also called Philbro Babble with David. Pastor Ferry's on the case today. Kif called How Do You Account for Logic with David. And that gets us a line on the bingo. And then Elizabeth B, not to be left behind, called Fine Tuning with Vitor. Absolutely right. Nailed it, Elizabeth. And then Kif called No Morality Without God with Vitor. And finally, the final one is Kif also called Free Will with JD. So that is a very, very impressive showing on the bingo that only leaves personal experience of God, I'll pray for you, and Jesus fulfilled prophecy. That's outstanding, people. I do need to start being a bit more disciplined about this and not leaving so many to stack up. Forgive me for being so rubbish with it. And the same thing applies, of course, to the super chats. Let's have a look at some now. So the first one was John O'Neill said, only morality in our actions can give beauty and dignity to life. Quote from Einstein. Einstein had quite a few great quotes, and I can't remember his quote about not believing in a personal God, but he was very clear about the fact that he didn't, because he was misquoted. He once said something like, I can't believe God plays dice with the universe, and that was his response to quantum mechanics, and that he didn't like how it's probabilistic rather than sort of more solid than that. He didn't like that, and he expressed that in metaphorical language, and immediately people jumped on and said, Einstein believes in a God. He did not believe in a God, and there are a few Einstein quotes out there that support that. Alil's great to see you said to the caller, Sean and John agreeing is not concession. Yeah, I would agree with that. And Dade, good to see you, Dade, said Jesus Christ is the way is something you only hear out of the mouths of the credulous. Pathetic. It's certainly not a decent response to developing an argument when we're trying to look at evidence. Just saying Jesus Christ is the way is you might as well just make baby noises. It doesn't establish anything. It doesn't provide anything. It doesn't support any other claims you might want to support. It's literally just that. It's crying. It's literally crying. And Dade also says your inability to open a science book isn't justification for positing a God. Do better. True. Scientific ignorance is never gonna be the way. Dade also says, thanks, Dade, it boggles the mind how reality averse these Christians demonstrate themselves to be. Doberman is jaw-droppingly, unequivocally dumb. AF. I mean, I don't like calling people dumb. I prefer to engage with the quality of the specific arguments. So I think a lot of the arguments that Doberman was making were pretty dumb. Maybe he's a smart guy. He just has some bad arguments going for him. I don't know. Rogantu says, Jesus had a great 1.5 day weekend for your sins. Yeah. Show me the sacrifice. It's not a sacrifice to be dead for 1.5 days or 2 days and come back and then whiz up into heaven. That isn't a sacrifice. Think about the people who have genuinely been bereaved. They know what a sacrifice is. Or
he also didn't take on our punishment, which is supposed to be eternal torment, conscious torment,
and separation from God.
Right.
Yeah.
So he didn't do that either. He didn't sacrifice his own life. He came back to life. He didn't. Yes, there. If the biblical account is true, he suffered. There's no doubt for 1.5 days, but that's like not even a tiny fraction of what hell's supposed to be. So He didn't take on that punishment either. He didn't pay that debt, so to speak.
Quite right. Eternal separation from God, my backside. Richard, good to see you. I love your live streams, intelligent and interesting. Thank you. You have great patience with callers. Beautiful day here. Oh, thank you, Richard. I appreciate the support very much indeed. It really means a lot. Thank you for taking the time to send that. I really appreciate it. 46 strings, always great to see you. If brains can't find truth, we can't find a God. Yeah, I guess not. I think that's a really good argument. In fact, that's a perfect argument. If the whole basis of your argument is that our brains can't reliably detect what's true or not, then how can you reliably detect what's true about a God or not? Brilliant response, 46. I should have made that. We dropped the ball there, but I don't think that Plantinga argument makes sense because truth finding has a huge survival advantage, and brains that don't detect truth don't last long. Don't last long. Peapot Fairy said, I conceived of a really cool God concept when I was on mushrooms. Perception is not the same as truth. Discernment rules. Well said. Just a couple more and then we'll get our next guest in. Hose the Demon said, Sean was incorrect. The fastest land animals are Christians running away from the Bible. Yeah, they never want to read the Bible. They never want to. I don't understand why. That's the book you've decided to organize your whole life around. And the moment we want to open it, they do tend to run for the hills. It's remarkable.
So I got to say, I'm stealing that. A lot of the times our followers put in like comments in the chat, and sometimes we steal them, and that one I'm stealing.
That's for you, Sean. That's a gift.
Yeah.
That's a gift. And Garbage Man says, if guests fail to understand, you can offer that theism also cannot be false. But Doberman would have misunderstood that pancakes cannot be false. Yeah, I agree. I think that's where that one probably ended. Okay, we'll get more super chats a little bit later on, but let's get our next guest in. We are going to bring in Big Vaz, who has been waiting for the longest, as far as I can tell, in the queue. There you go. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing. Oh, my bad. Doing good. How are you?
Very well indeed. Thank you for waiting so patiently. You are up. What would you like to say?
So I was here with your conversation with David, and it sounded like you. So you did admit you can't. I don't want to run tag. I just want to deal with the prompt real quick.
Sure. You
did admit you can't know anything with certainty.
There are certain things you can know with certainty, like analytical truths are definitely true, right? 2 and 2 equals 4. It's like necessarily true. And the laws of logic are necessarily true. They must be true. But you can't know truths about the external world with certainty. You can just know them with a high level of probability. And we just, we hold them provisionally, let's say. We hold them provisionally because our survival kind of depends on it, right?
Mm-hmm. So then, I guess explain your prompt a little bit so I can, clarify.
Yeah, sure. So atheism is literally just not accepting somebody else's God claims. So it doesn't really have a truth value. If you tell me that you believe in a God and I say I don't believe you, then I'm just making a statement about my response to the claim you've made. I'm saying I don't find it convincing. That's what atheism is. Now, if I make a positive claim and I say there are no gods, well then that could be wrong. That claim could be wrong. But that's not what atheism is. Atheism isn't making that claim. And that's kind of why I'm running this, to help people understand that a bit more.
Mm-hmm. So if I were to ask you, does God exist, what would your answer be?
Which God?
That's not an answer.
Well, I would ask you to clarify.
A clarifying question.
Yeah, and the reason I would ask that is not to be clever.
Theism.
Right, the God of classical theism, in my view, doesn't exist because it has incoherent properties. So in my opinion, that particular God, I would then switch from a general kind of weak atheism to a more stronger atheism and say, with respect to that particular God, I believe that God does not exist. And I could be right or wrong about that.
So then
I could be wrong about that one.
Okay, so when you're saying in your prompt, you're just making a claim about your psychological state of mind. You're not really...
Because that's what you got it. Because that's what atheism is. Atheism is a claim about somebody's psychological state of mind.
But correct. You also just said, when you said that you don't believe in the God of classical theism, that you would move to a stronger atheism.
That's a different claim, right? So
then,
that
is
claim
that also atheism.
So it's a type of atheism. It's a subset, right? So that claim could be wrong.
Okay, so then atheism can be wrong.
No, some types of atheism can be wrong. It's a little bit like if I make a statement that says mathematics can't be wrong, and then we make a mathematical claim, and I say something like the number of prime numbers under 5 million is 634. Right? That statement can be wrong.
Sure, but it's still math,
and it might be right. So it doesn't say anything about whether mathematics can be right or wrong. So I'm just saying that atheism, as a general thing, is a statement about somebody's belief position. If we then switch from that and ask about a particular claim, a particular God, then of course that particular claim could be a mistake. You could make a mistake about that.
So then would you agree that a more accurate prompt would be my state of mind cannot be wrong, not atheism cannot be wrong? Because it just kind of sounds like we're playing system, like we're just playing word games.
Well, we are, but the thing is, my state of mind...
Okay, that's nice. I'm glad we can agree.
No, I'm saying I agree with you, but my state of mind cannot be wrong isn't a particularly engaging topic, is it? And so part of what I'm doing here, my agenda here, isn't just clickbait.
Respond?
My agenda is to encourage people to develop a more nuanced view of what atheism is, because in our culture, atheists are vilified and misunderstood.
All right. So, but when you're saying atheism cannot be wrong, what you mean is my state of mind cannot be wrong.
I mean the lack of a belief in a God can't be wrong.
I asked you, are you also saying so? Your state of mind cannot be wrong, because you said that when you say atheism cannot be wrong, you're just basically saying I'm not convinced.
Is a state of mind. He's being specific about the state of mind.
Right,
do you agree?
and what he also just said was that saying that it's a state of mind cannot be wrong is not an engaging prompt. Therefore, why is atheism cannot be wrong an engaging prompt?
Do you agree that not being convinced any gods exist is not a statement that can be wrong? Do you agree with that?
That a God does not exist is a statement that can be wrong?
No,
not that a God does not exist, that not being convinced that a God does exist.
Yeah, I believe your state of mind can be wrong, but I'm saying is you just said that having...
No. So it's not only a positive claim can be wrong, correct? Like a claim about a fact can be wrong, right?
Well, I think negative claims can be wrong as well.
A positive claim is also X does not exist. So basically, only a claim about a fact can be wrong, right? Would you agree with that? Okay. And would you agree that not being convinced of X is not a claim about a fact, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Atheism is the state of not being convinced any gods exist. Now, hold on.
I'm on the same page as you.
Yeah. So we agree on that. And in that sense, atheism cannot be wrong. Now, there are some of those people who are, in addition to not being convinced, are convinced that specific gods don't exist or even all gods don't exist. But that's not the part that makes them an atheist. The part that makes them an atheist is they are not convinced any gods exist. So they're a subset. So all under the set, like the actual definition, not being convinced any gods exist is not something that can be wrong.
Right, but that's my point is John earlier, he said that saying my state of mind cannot be wrong is not an engaging prompt, but that's what he means by atheism cannot be wrong. So I'm just kind of confused as why we have like this prompt that you already conceded is not an engaging prompt.
Can I ask you a question?
It is.
Are you here to talk about
already conceded that
are you here to talk about the topic we're trying to talk about, or are you here to talk about my choice of prompts, like choice of how to try to create engagement and discussion in the stream? Because they're different subjects. My agenda here is to try to encourage a more nuanced discussion of what atheism means, because I would say something like 8 out of 10 believers that we speak to misunderstand the term.
And I think that's who you ask. Like the term, like I said, like if I'm talking about God's existence of classical theism, you said you would move to an atheism that negates the existence of God. So you can't just say that there is like this. The nuance is depending on the person who you're talking to. Like it's not. It doesn't apply to everybody. Not everybody. Not every atheist would agree with your definition.
Well, the point is that I'm trying to stimulate a discussion about what atheism actually means, and one of the ways it occurred to me might be a good way to do that is to make a statement like this, which looks on the face of it like it's ridiculous, right? If you have a misunderstanding of what atheism actually entails, then this statement immediately looks wrong and ridiculous and indefensible, right? So in a way, it could be said that I'm slightly baiting in people who have this misunderstanding so that I can then explain to them.
Clickbait.
It's not just clickbait. It's so that I can then help them to achieve a greater understanding, and it means that they will be more reasonable in their engagements with this topic. Do you think that's a worthwhile thing to do?
So it is just semantics.
Do you think that's a worthwhile thing to do?
Sure.
Great. I'm glad you agree. So now that we've dealt with the subject of whether I made a wise choice of what to title the stream, let's talk about the substance at hand, right? So. Mm-hmm. So do you think, let's switch to the other side, right? The moral side. Do you think that the other reason I chose it is because it has these two aspects, right? There's a moral aspect here, that atheism can't be wrong morally. And this is another thing that I'm trying to encourage people to think about.
I think that would just be left up to like axioms.
Do you think, I'm asking you your opinion, that atheism could ever be considered to be wrong morally?
Yeah, sure. On the basis of like my axioms that I hold to, yeah.
So defend that claim. Defend the claim that somebody not being persuaded.
Do you know what an axiom is?
I do. So defend the claim.
Yeah. So I don't have to defend it. Axioms they can't be proven. Everybody has axioms, right? Regardless of what worldview you hold to.
Sure, of course. So based on the axioms,
so you asking me to defend it is nonsensical.
Based on the axioms that you hold, provide for us a morally coherent explanation as to why you think not being convinced that God exists can be judged to be wrong morally.
Yeah, because under the Christian worldview, what's wrong is that which disaligns with the will of God. According to Christianity, God wants all people to come to him. If you reject him, or I wouldn't, well, you say you want to reject him, but like, I guess if you don't come to that belief, that would disalign with God's will, therefore being wrong. Right. But again, I'm not sure why I have to defend axioms.
So that was the connective tissue between what we started off talking about whether atheism is just a lack of belief or some sort of act of rebellion or something like that, and the moral aspect of it. So what Christianity does is it pretends that not being convinced of a God is an action that someone's taken, like an act of rebellion, right? Like a thing that someone decided to do. And this,
but yeah, if we're talking about that, I don't think it can be morally wrong. Your state of mind can't be morally wrong.
But, I think that's what atheism is a state of mind.
But that's what it is.
By definition, established that it's much more nuanced than that. Like I said, if we were to ask him, does God exist? He'd say, or the classical theistic God
even
exists,
hard atheism is a state of, even hard atheism is a state of mind. And
wait, does hard atheism make a claim about whether God exists?
Let me finish. All right. Even being positively convinced of something, including X does not exist, is also a state of mind. All beliefs are a state of mind, and no beliefs are a choice. So what you're saying is axiomatically something can be wrong that you cannot choose. I didn't choose not to be convinced any gods exist. I'm just not convinced. In fact, I was once a believer.
I never brought up choice, so I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Well, okay, so is it axiomatic to you that something that someone cannot choose can possibly be immoral?
Well, again, it's nuanced. Like
that's a yes or no.
It's nuanced because we've already established multiple different definitions for what atheism means. And as I already said, if we're talking about the atheism of his state of mind where he's just not convinced, no, I don't think that's morally wrong.
Okay, so how about being okay? So Bob is not convinced. Is convinced no gods exist. That's immoral.
If he says no gods exist, then yeah, he's making.
Okay, no, I didn't say anything about saying. I didn't ask you if Bob said. I said,
you said he believes.
Bob, yeah, correct.
No if God
Bob believes. Okay, yeah, is that immoral? Okay, so is it ever? If
he rejects the idea of God's existence, I would say that's immoral. But if
I understand the misunderstanding here. The misunderstanding here is that you think that weak atheism is not amenable to judgment, but strong atheism is because it's making a stronger claim. But that's a misunderstanding on your part.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
It is, because it is exactly what
you're going to tell me what I'm saying.
Well, I'm inferring it from what you just said to Sean. That you said.
So you said previously. To clarify rather than trying to put words in my mouth.
Sure.
I'd like to answer the question I asked you earlier.
Okay, what was your question?
Yeah. Okay, so is it ever sensical to cast moral aspersions on something somebody cannot choose?
What's a moral aspersion?
Just to judge is wrong. Just judge is wrong.
Does it ever make sense to judge something as immoral if that thing is not something someone can choose? Or does it always have to be contingent on free choice?
Yeah, I don't believe we're judged based on our state of minds. I believe we're judged because of what we've done.
Okay. Is believing no gods exist a state of mind? Yes or no?
Is believing no God exists a state of mind?
Yes.
Sure, but it's also you're making a claim regarding the fact of the world.
You just said it doesn't make sense to judge someone morally based on their state of mind, and you said believing no gods exist is a state of mind, so that therefore we can.
Okay, but there's
conclude.
Okay, can I clarify? When we're saying that the state of mind I was speaking of that you can't be held like judgment for, I'm talking about like you're just not convinced. You're not making any claim regarding the world. You're not looking at the.
Then
are you want to let me finish, dude? My gosh.
Well, you didn't, because the question I asked you is believing no gods exist a state of mind, and you said yes.
Yeah, and I'm trying to clarify what I mean. Okay, just the same way you guys have a prompt, and it's like this is why this whole thing is stupid. It's just semantics that you guys are playing, but like there's zero substance to any of what we're talking about.
It really isn't. And if you think it is, if you think this is just semantics, that is the strongest single yet that you have completely failed to understand everything I said to you about my reason for running this prompt.
When I joined the live, did you not say that this is word games?
No. This is not word games.
You did.
No,
though.
I didn't. I actually
now
went
you're
on
just
to.
contradicting yourself.
I said it may appear to be, and then I went on to give a detailed explanation about why I chose to run this.
Verbatim said,
topic.
That's kind of what we're doing.
Would you like me to do that again if you've forgotten it?
Okay. Well, I would like to clarify and give my answer to Sean without him interrupting for once.
But the thing is, when I said a moment ago, you've misunderstood. You've misunderstood this. You went. But you're presuming to tell me the contents of my mind and then went on to demonstrate that you had misunderstood things in exactly the way I'd suggested, which was that.
Okay, so then clarify what my misunderstanding is.
Right.
And then
so your misunderstanding is that you don't think that weak atheism is amenable to judgment because it's just not being convinced of something, but you do think that strong atheism is because it's making more of a positive claim. The point, because, right? Am I right? Is that a fair statement of your position?
Well, that's what I'm trying to like.
No, I just want a yes or no. I just want a yes or a no. Have I got you right?
Yes, but like
okay. The reason why that position doesn't work is that strong atheism is still just a belief state. It's just a belief state with respect to a stronger position, a stronger statement.
But one looks at the idea of God and rejects it. One looks at the idea of God and neither rejects nor accepts it.
No,
that's the difference. I'm saying
it's still the case that if I reject it, I'm rejecting it because I'm persuaded that it's not true. That's just how the world looks to me.
My point is,
you're missing your point. You're missing your point. The rejection of God, because the rejection of God itself derives from a belief state you didn't choose. If I find myself convinced that there are no gods, let's say I think about it today and I think, you know what? I started off today as like a strong atheist with respect to the Christian God, but a weak atheist with respect to all gods in general. And I've considered this, and actually, you know what? I've thought about this. I actually think there are no gods. Like, I think it through. I think to myself, is it reasonable to stay open-minded to this? Am I equally open-minded to fairies? Maybe there's some definition of fairies that would warrant belief in fairies, so I should stay a little bit open-minded? Or am I bold enough to say, you know what? I believe there are no fairies. And I think about this and I think, I've persuaded myself. Actually, I'm now a strong atheist with respect to all gods. That's still something I didn't choose.
Could I be held morally culpable if I said murder is wrong? Because it's just a state of mind, right? It's just a belief I hold.
You can't be held morally culpable for anything you believe. You can be held morally culpable for your actions.
So if I say murder is okay, I'm not saying something that's morally wrong.
Saying something is an action.
Saying exactly.
Saying something is an action. We don't hold people morally culpable for the contents of their minds. You are welcome to think or believe anything you like.
Do you just think that people who believe something just like they never utter their beliefs? They just kind of keep it inside for their entire
life? No, I didn't say that.
I think when I say, I'm saying it's I'm using it synonymously with belief.
So at that point,
so if I believe, if I believe murder is okay, can I be held morally culpable for that? Should I be locked away and probably kept away from society?
No, you should be kept away from society.
Okay, so people can live thinking murder is okay?
No, yes, they can think murder is okay. We don't throw people into jail for thinking murder is okay. We throw people into jail for threatening others or doing harm to others. I don't want to live in a world where people are prosecuted.
Murder is okay and is considered good. Do you think we should keep them away from society?
No, that's a separate matter. That's a separate matter might be different. Whether it should be punitive.
If they're a clear and present risk, right, and it seems that their beliefs are in danger of spilling over in a likely chance that those beliefs are going to end up then hurting someone else, then in that state, you're removing them from society because they represent a clear and present risk to other people. They're not being punished for their beliefs. You're acting to protect. Hang on a second. I'm trying to have a conversation where we don't interrupt each other. So when I'm speaking, wait. I will reach the point where I've finished the statement and leave room for you to speak. I promise. Okay. So
go ahead.
Somebody's belief state about a god isn't going to put anyone else in danger. There's no one else who needs to be protected from that. And so punishing them for
presupposing it.
That is just a fact.
I would say that when you reject the idea of God and say there is no God, you can be held morally culpable.
You said say.
Okay. Again, I also said that I'm using this synonymously with belief. So
it's not synonymous though.
Yeah, again, I said I'm using it synonymously.
But the Bible doesn't. So you're now departing from biblical doctrine. Biblical doctrine doesn't punish people for what they say. It punishes people for what they believe.
Bro, this is literally the definition. This is just word games.
And that's why, but it's the word games that mean everything in the world. The difference between what someone thinks...
Okay, so it is word games. I'm glad
I'm saying
earlier it's not word games.
I'm saying it sarcastically. I'm saying it sarcastically here. I'm saying the difference between criminalizing someone for what they say and criminalizing someone for the contents of their mind is night and day. It's totally different. And you only find this in religion.
You said, hold up. Can I draw the parallel then?
Yeah.
You said that somebody who believes murder is okay and that they can see like that there's a clear and present danger for society. They should be kept away from society. I'm saying if somebody says there is no God, there's a clear and present danger for their soul, according to my worldview. So therefore, they are to be held morally culpable, especially for someone like you who's here spreading that belief in no God and causing for people to lose that relationship with God and to be separated from Him eternally. You are to be held morally culpable.
But isn't it ironic? That the only danger we can identify here is the one that comes from the problem in the first place? There wouldn't be a danger if people were. Hang on, I'm speaking. Remember the speaking thing. There wouldn't be a danger if this idiotic idea wasn't in place of people being punished for the contents of their minds, as promoted by Islam and Christianity, wherein people are said to be condemned already just by virtue of what they do or don't find convincing. So the fact that you're saying
that's not the position of Christianity.
It absolutely is the position of Christianity.
No, can I explain you what the actual? Okay. Well, it's what you do that sends you to hell. Okay,
it's your belief.
Professing. Wait, let me finish, dude. Just like you want to get mad at me, like. Okay. Damn it! I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
You were going to say. I'll finish for you. You're going to say we're all sinners, so we all deserve hell.
Oh, that's right.
It's the divine. Hold on. Okay.
I mean, that sums it up pretty well. Sure, but
yeah. So basically, we're all sinners, but to get the divine pardon, you have to believe the right things. But belief isn't a choice. So now what you have is a criteria to be saved from the awful things God will do to you. That's based on something.
Yeah. Are we talking about judgment or redemption?
Judgment. So
okay. I'm saying you are judged on the basis of what you do.
Okay. So all right. So we're not morally culpable for not believing.
If you profess belief in no God, that's something you're doing.
Okay, so what if I don't profess it and I'm convinced there are no gods?
You're still professing it internally. Like just because you don't profess it out loud doesn't mean
it's not about professing. Here's the verse. Here's the verse. I'm just going to show it to you because what you're saying is nonsense, right? Those who believe in Him are condemned, but those who do not believe, not profess, not say to others, not start a YouTube channel, those who do not believe are condemned already because they have not believed in the name of the only Son of God. It's about belief, my friend. This is the central doctrine here. Jesus is knocking on the door. You just have to let Him in. You just have to start believing things. It's about what you believe. Mark 16:16 reiterates this as well over here. The one who believes and is baptized will be saved, but the one who does not believe will be condemned. Belief is what it's all about here. It's not what the situation you're describing here is not what your religion actually teaches, and that's what we're pushing back on. The idea that people are held morally accountable for a lack of belief.
That if you don't believe in God, you could be held culpable for that. What I'm talking about, though, this is very nuanced. Is why it's just word games. I'm saying it's not just the belief aspect that gets you judged. For example, Adam and Eve believed in God, yet they fell away. So they are judged on the basis of what they did.
That was before Jesus.
That was and that was also an action. Do you agree? Do you agree that nobody?
Jesus also teach? Wait, does Jesus teach that you're judged on the basis of what you do?
Do you agree that we should not be?
Wait, I want an answer to my question. Don't ask me a question after
I started speaking and then you spoke over me.
Yeah, and I was responding to host. If you want to cut our conversation off, you're just rude.
Do you agree that nobody should be held morally culpable.
Yeah, I was speaking to John, and I'd like to continue speaking
so
to John.
this question is not going to go away, and I'm going to keep circling back to it, and I'm going to be as stubborn as you, if not more. Do you agree that we should not be held morally culpable for things we cannot choose? Yes or no?
For things you cannot choose?
Correct.
I guess not. No.
Okay. So that includes all belief states, because beliefs are not choices. We are either convinced of a thing or we are not. So now you would have to accept that we cannot be held morally culpable for
so now
any
we can
belief
actually
state, right?
get into the substance of the conversation, and I can give an argument.
Yeah, that's why I did this. So you agree that beliefs are not choices, right?
Sure, but I believe you can choose to reject evidence.
No, you can't.
Yeah, so, you can.
Okay. No, let's test this right now. Do you believe there is sufficient evidence to believe cars exist?
Yeah.
Okay. Choose to reject the evidence, all the evidences that you know that cars exist. Choose to reject all of that evidence, thus rendering your belief state that no cars exist. Can you do that?
I don't think you could reject like brute facts of reality. I'm talking.
Okay, so you can't reject your belief state. You can't just reject evidence.
I'm talking about, okay, if somebody were to present like a worldview to you, like nihilism, and they gave a rational argument, and you were like, okay, yeah, that logically follows. I have no reason not to believe it, but I prefer this worldview. Can you not choose the other worldview that you prefer?
Nope.
Really? Because I know a lot of people who have done that.
No,
a lot of people don't want to live their life without meaning, even though
I'm going to explain further. So now you may be incredulous, like, why aren't you accepting this evidence? But the evidence either convinces you or it doesn't. You can't just choose to find evidence convincing. Likewise, if you have convincing evidence, you can't just choose
that's not what I
said.
Did I say I don't think you can choose? You can choose what you find convincing.
Well, you did to reject the evidence, right?
No, I said.
Okay, people, here's where we are. It's 2:30 right now. I've got another half an hour or so, so we won't be able to let the conversations go on for as long as we otherwise might, just because I'm aware of time, and we've got a few in the queue as well. I don't want people to not get a say. We could easily allow this conversation could easily go on for another 20 or 30 minutes, and we're kind of going round and round in circles. So what I would say, Big Baz, is thank you for calling in. Thank you for calling in. Feel free to call us back. When I stream, we stream for 7 or 8 hours, and there's room in there for longer discussions. So with that said, I mean, we're nearly at half an hour on this one now. So please feel free to call back again. It's the next stream. I'll be on tonight with Justin, so you can call in to that. If you follow Deconstruction Zone, you could call in there, and we'll be speaking about this kind of stuff tonight. Otherwise, Sean and I will be back on Thursday evening. We stream all through the night for me in the UK here. So from about I think it works out about 5 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. We'll be here. Feel free to call back and we'll pick this up again. But we can't afford the time to get bogged down in it right now.
Yeah, I understand. Before I go, I just want to say I appreciate the convo. John, you seem very polite. I think Sean could work on maybe not trying to cut convos off anymore.
We don't need that.
You know, at the end of the day, I think
call back and we'll pick it up from there. We don't need an analysis.
Have a good one.
You too. Thank you. Okay, I'm trying to remember who was next in the queue. I need to read a couple of super chats so we don't get too behind on those. No new calls on the bingo. Weren't you paying attention? I didn't spot any either, to be fair. Okay, what have we got? Gates of Delirium says, "Let me land," proceeds to crash and burn. "We were trying to save you." It's true, always. "Let me land" always happens just before the plane crashes. It's horrendous. Dade says, "Vitor, put on your dunce cap and sit in the corner." It didn't go well with Vitor. And Buzz, good to see you, said, "Arguments? Nah, I'll just make some shit up. All the greatest minds believe in Jesus." I know, right? What a wild pivot that was. For anyone not wearing a seatbelt at that part in the conversation, I hope you were all okay and it didn't hurt too much, because that was wild. Niddy, to say the greatest minds are all Christian is very naive and biased. It's only an evaluation of certain regions of the world and discounts the rest. Right. You'd think we didn't have an enlightenment, right? Thank you, Niddy. I love Niddy. For anyone not following Niddy on YouTube, his content's really good, really thoughtful and smart. And I love having Niddy around. And Wiznilip says, John, the crashed out PhD linguist, was on DZ 2 days in a row. Have you seen it? Your conversation with him was called. I didn't know it was 2 days in a row. I saw him. Yeah. I saw him crash and burn on Unapologetic yesterday. His PhD from Harvard was laughable, and Justin roasted him so hard on the linguistic stuff. He claimed to be a linguist. Dude is not a linguist. Could barely spell his own name by the looks of it. We've been speaking about putting together a compilation because he's been on a couple of other streams as well. I think he might have been the one. I'm waiting for confirmation of this. I think he may possibly have been into Joel and Mezzo's stream and threatened physical violence. Quite a character is the Captain Skeleton Man. I have a feeling we may be seeing more of him. What can I say? The gift that keeps on giving. But yeah, it's going to be brilliant to put together a compilation of his finest moments. Didn't cover himself in glory at all. 46 says, Dutch elm disease, what naughty fruit did elm eat? Naughty fruit is a recurring theme in this world. And Dumbledad, great name, loving the stream, listening in from Oz. Oh, awesome. You're keeping me sane while I prepare my tax return. Yikes. Doing God's work, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Dumbledad, and good luck with the tax return. They're never fun. Just a couple more, and then we'll get our next guest in. Hotep, good to see you, says, this is like watching cats play with injured mouse. I mean, I don't know what to say. We enjoy the exchanges, and we'll meet people wherever they are in the conversation. Some people come in with really good arguments, and they make us work for it. Other people come in with terrible arguments, and it's silly, really, just silly. And lastly, Miko, thank you so much for sending out 5 Unconvinced gift memberships. They will long have been distributed to people in the chat. So thank you so much for that, Miko. You're an absolute star for doing that. Appreciate it. Okay, our next guest is going to be Snowflake Ohio Riz. We will bring them in. Then we've got True Joy, and then we've got Fro over on the YouTube side. We'll need to move through these calls reasonably quickly because I don't want to run out of time. So there we go. Snowflake, welcome in.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm well.
Good. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I didn't join to contradict your posit. I agree with it.
Fair enough.
So, I just wanted to engage with the idea that I'm an atheist as far as probably everyone else's gods.
Yeah.
In
So
the sense that
Snowflake, forgive me for cutting you off. We've got another 20 minutes of the stream left, and people have really joined to kind of hear the discussions. But I would welcome you to call in. Please give me a follow on TikTok if you don't already. I'm going to be announcing in the next couple of days the more of the sort of free-flowing Q&A, call in and talk about anything stream, and I'd love to have you back on that. But I've been given to believe that things sort of work out better if we have different streams for different types of conversations. Then people who don't really want to hear people just agreeing with me can not necessarily join us for those, and people who are here for the debates and for the more robust conversations get what they've kind of tuned in for, if you don't mind. So yeah, thank you for that, and please do keep an eye out for the Hangout stream. I'll be figuring out and listing the times for that this week. So yeah, we'd love to have you back up for that.
Yeah, thank you. I was pretty much out of time anyway.
Nice one. Thanks, friend. Okay, True Joy is up next, and then we'll hit the YouTube callers after that. Hey, True Joy, how are you doing?
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we got you. Welcome in.
Gotcha. It's not even showing my profile picture on my end, so there might be bad service. Since we have a little bit of time, can I just ask, what does atheism have to offer? If we remove any kind of virtues that come from being religious of any kind?
Yeah, so that's a little bit like saying, what does not believing in astrology have to offer? It could offer something, or it could offer nothing. It's still just a fact of whether you find something convincing or not. So it could be the case that it offers a lifetime of misery. That doesn't have any effect on whether you find claims of a God convincing. You either do or you don't. And if you don't, You just happen to be an atheist. No one ever chose to be one.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I don't know what choosing has anything to do with this, right? But like, if we're taking the time to convince people of this worldview to be true, and
which worldview?
I guess atheism of some
atheism
kind.
Isn't atheism isn't a worldview. It's just
there's categories of
it's just not being convinced of someone else's claim.
Sure, but that leads to other like views and categories, right?
Such
so
as
you
what?
can be a nihilist. You can or nihilism.
What does atheism?
I'm not a nihilist.
Okay. Well, then could you tell me what your worldview actually is then? So I'm not.
We each have individual worldviews on different topics, but atheism isn't part of that. You can be an atheist and be a moral realist. You can be an atheist and be an anti-realist. Different political spectrums. Atheism is not a worldview.
Sure. I'm tracking.
Any more than a leprechaunism is.
Sure. And I'm only doing this for time, right?
Yeah.
So within your particular worldview, what is it that I should be convinced of, or what is the benefit of switching from being a Christian, where I have hope and understanding of a world or a life everlasting, right, to something that doesn't have that?
Well, it depends on whether you want your beliefs to be true or not, because Christianity asks you to believe. Christianity asks you to believe a whole load of things which are extremely unlikely to be true. Now, in the act of believing those things, you may feel a sense of personal satisfaction at the prospect of seeing loved ones that you may have lost, at the prospect of being rewarded by the boss in the sky for your good behavior or whatever it might be. It may make you feel emotionally nice to believe those things, but don't think it doesn't come with a price. The price is that you're disconnected from reality. You believe in magic. This is defending wizard stuff. You believe that non-believers deserve to be punished. You believe that
conjecture.
It's not conjecture. It just follows from the doctrine. It just follows from the doctrine.
It follows from the doctrine. So the doctrine just leads to magic, is all you're saying, right? So,
yeah, it does.
Okay,
Absolutely
so believing
does.
in the magic is bad because we assume atheism or the negation of theism to be true, right? But what are you positing to replace this worldview to be better benefit like psychologically?
I'm not asking anything to replace
emotionally,
it. No, it's like
better benefit physically.
Yeah, it's like saying what do we replace our belief in Santa when we grow out of our belief in Santa? What are we going to replace it with? You don't have to replace it with anything. Sure. You just live in the world in reality and don't believe in talking animals. Something. No, you just replace it with.
No, that's not true. So that's absolutely not true. So we replace Santa with, hey, I have gotten you this gift. I have presented these things in
reality.
I care about you.
So replace Christianity with all of that stuff. Replace Christianity with the same stuff that replaces Santa. We have a word for it. Reality.
Right. So now we have a worldview, right? If there's no theism, where I am just the product of evolution, whatever my genetic disposition is, has developed me over time into who I am today.
Correct.
Right? And then you would have to now deal with certain things like why there are like laws of reason, morality in general. Why I'm being actually just to advance the conversation.
I can address that.
Sure. Let me finish on. So you got to explain to me what moral obligations I'm going to be held culpable for, and why I should have to perform.
So it's the moral argument. Okay, we could have saved time.
Well, it's not just a moral argument; it's moral obligation.
Yeah, where do moral obligations come from without a God?
You went from tag to the moral argument to everything else. Each one of those can be addressed individually, but the fact is, if you have an unknown, like why are there the laws of logic? Why are there this? Why is there that? And you posit an explanation that has not been substantiated. You're basically you haven't actually explained it, so there's nothing to replace. So for example, if you claim the laws of logic wouldn't exist if not for a God, if you're making that claim and you haven't substantiated it, then there's nothing to replace. You just had an unsubstantiated claim. Good, that's gone. Now we can actually explore these questions without some made up shit that's getting in the way. We could just say, hey, I don't know, let's explore this question and drive on from there.
That was just a dodge, sir. I'm not trying to be rude.
No.
Like I'm asking you, okay, we can assume in the conversation God doesn't exist. right? And yes, you're right. I jumped from tag to a moral argument, so on and so forth. But if I have a genetic disposition to, I don't know, or be a rapist, right? Like that's just how my genetics have developed, the moral or the hardwiring of my brain, right? The pathways that developed over time through my nature and nurture. I am just this type of person, right? Like let's assume that is true. What moral obligation do you have now to stop me from being who I was created to be through evolution, right? Just through a natural system. Yeah. So where's the moral obligation?
Sure. I got you. So two things. Like you and I value different things. You value obedience to your God. I value the well-being of others. So if somebody else, for example, the grapist, doesn't value the well-being of others, they're not going to adhere to my morality. Similarly, if somebody like me doesn't give a flying fluck what Yahweh, Zeus, Shiva, or some deity has to say about morality, your argument, God said so, doesn't resonate with me. So we have the same problem, correct?
Do you, Sean, do you do this a lot where like I ask you a question, but you...
Is that yes or no?
Yeah, it's a yes, but you're like once again deflecting back to my worldview.
I literally answered your question. I literally answered your question. You said, what if somebody doesn't care about, you basically said, if a grapist thinks it's okay to grape somebody and they don't believe some deity, if the grapist doesn't care about the well-being of others, I can't argue with him from my moral standpoint, which is humanism. Similarly, but what I'm trying to show you is that belief in God doesn't solve that problem because somebody else doesn't care what your God has to say. It's the same problem. That's the messy aspect of morality.
Well, respectfully, I'll get to, and I'll come back on when y'all have more time to get to my worldview and explain like some kind of culpability based on an authority that transcends human beings. That's fine. Cool. The question I've asked for both of you is, what is the
come
moral...
back and argue that.
I followed both of you. What is the moral obligation under humanism for persons to stop other persons from performing harm? And why is harm bad?
This is
why
simple.
Is harm wrong?
Okay. So the moral obligation starts from the assumption that harm is bad and wrong. Now, you could say, where does that come from, right? That bit is actually subjective. That's a subjective preference, right? My subjective preference is I don't like other people to be harmed. Now, I'm perfectly fine to own that as being completely subjective. In the same way that your subjective preference is perhaps to not care about other people being harmed as long as God is happy. Your priority is make God happy, and if that means other people being harmed, totally fine, right? When God commands that children are butchered and murdered and women are raped, absolutely fine, because the most important thing for you subjectively is God is happy, and the most important thing for me subjectively is harm is minimized. That's my subjective preference. I own it as being completely subjective. Now, having established that that's the subjective baseline, we can then look quite objectively at individual acts after that and say, are those acts more or less likely to move us towards that subjective preference? So when I see someone trying to harm another person, my obligation to intervene and stop it comes from the fact that my basis for morality is the minimizing of harm. So if I see that being withered away, I will push back against it.
Don't you think that, okay, so if the evolutionary model through like natural selection is true, and a person's genetic composition has developed their mental pathways to be such a way that they are sociopaths, that they have a capacity to rape, right? Or murder. These individuals are just performing what they were designed or created to do through natural selection.
That doesn't make it. When you doesn't mean I have to like it.
When you stop. Well, sure, but when you stop somebody from being who they are in
no. There's nonsense. This is a ridiculous argument. You're confusing. You're confusing. But you're confusing granting that evolution is a thing that's happened with wildly endorsing any effects it may produce. And they are in fact different things. So I can be horrified by the effects of evolution on a person. And evolution doesn't really work that way. You can't say that evolution made that person a psychopath. You could say that something went wrong in that person's brain. I'm thinking about the chap, Charles Whitmore, I think it was, who went up a tower at a university and shot a bunch of people. It turned out he had a walnut-sized tumour pressing on his amygdala in his brain, which caused him to behave that way. In fact, he'd killed members of his own family before doing that. and it wasn't really his
that
fault.
Mutation would be.
It wasn't a
mutation. Would be
mutation.
because of his genetic code.
Yeah, it might have been, or it might have just been. There are other ways. There are other things that create mutations other than just genetic code, right?
Sure, you could have a jealousy or a capacity. No,
you can. For
things.
example, when you get burnt in the sun. Right, it's the sunlight that's causing the change to your body. It's not your genetics, and you can get cancer from smoking cigarettes. Nothing to do with your genes. It's just that's had the thing that's had an effect on you, right? So you're confusing accepting that evolution is a thing that happens and that people just are how they are with endorsing anything that might arise as a result of that. That's a ludicrous thing. I would still say that I have an obligation to protect someone from somebody else who, through no fault of their own, is suffering from a mental illness. Because
Why would you have an obligation at all? There's nothing transcending you.
Because my starting point doesn't rely... My desire to avoid suffering in others doesn't require a cosmic policeman to enforce it. It's axiomatic for me that I don't like the suffering of others in the same way that it's axiomatic for you that you like groveling to a god.
Sure, right. But if you have this subjective, axiomatic, prior, what is causing you to have an obligation to stop other people who have opposite priors or different desires than you?
Yeah, because
and who's holding you culpable for you to respond appropriately to your own priors?
I'm holding myself culpable because I have a conscience. That's what conscience means.
So when you change, when you change and when you go, so let's say your whole life you weren't a rapist, but all of a sudden you turned 39 and now you are.
It's wild that you keep on using this example. As I'm getting slightly check his hard drive vibes from this, but keep on going.
The reason I'm using rape or murder is because we would both all three of us would collectively agree this is morally wrong and impermissible, right?
In your view, it's not wrong. No, but God enthusiastically condones rape all the time in the Bible, so it's not wrong in your worldview. It's wrong in mine because I just think it always creates suffering, and because it always creates suffering, it's universally wrong according to my subjectively chosen standard for ethics because it creates suffering. Whereas for yours, it's wrong until God asks for it, and then it's totally fine. So who's standing on ethical ground here, you or me?
There's no objective ought in your worldview either. What you're trying to do is proclaim that you've closed the is-ought gap, which is a well-known problem in philosophy when it comes to ethics. So why ought we care about the well-being of others? There isn't an objective ought. That's just the values of John and I. But you have the same problem. You don't have an objective ought to care about what your God has to say about morality. Like if God said cutting the toes off of babies is moral, I would say, F you, God. I think that's disgusting and I would never want to do that. And you would say
that's probably not true. You probably would. If God revealed, Sean, if God revealed to you that if we cut off the Sorry.
So if God said cutting the toes off of babies is moral, would you consider it moral? Yes or no?
Yeah, under what I'm assuming your humanistic standard, because you guys keep pivoting. Am I muted?
Is that a yes? You're not answering the question. So yes or no? If God said cutting the toes off of babies is moral, would you consider it moral? Yes or no?
Yeah, y'all keep pivoting back to my worldview.
Yes,
please answer.
Y'all keep doing this.
Please answer.
I'm a divine command theorist. If God tells me to do something, I will do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's disgusting. And I have
you would too. You would too, though, Sean. I can prove it. So if God told you to cut off the toes of babies, and by doing so, the chain of effect of cause, the cause and effect after that, would actually lead to world peace, would you do it?
Well,
you're a humanist, right?
I'm a humanist, but
so you would cut off the feet of babies, or the toes of babies, because in the future
I still wouldn't.
World peace.
I actually still wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to bring myself to do that. Sorry, no. If God promised me, I would say to God, I would say to God, why can't you bring about world peace without cutting the toes off babies? I'd heard a rumor you were all powerful. Apparently, it's not true. So no, I would not do that at all. And the fact that you are so ready to impart that kind of psychopathy onto other people is quite interesting. No, we would not be cutting toes off babies. We would not be putting swords through babies. We would not be stoning innocent women to death. We would not be condoning slavery. We would not be doing any of the vile, horrific, terrible stuff that the God of the Bible does and that you would enthusiastically support given his authority. That's all you have is a preference for your authority. That isn't morals. The moral argument isn't a moral argument.
Real quick, sir.
I'm still talking at the moment. The moral argument.
Sorry, no. I know. I got a phone call and I missed half of that. Could you please? The last thing. I apologize. The last thing I heard you say is we would not stab babies.
Yeah, we would not stab. We would not stab
Mr. Sean is the trolley problem, and then I missed what you said. Could you please say that?
I didn't even give you a trolley problem.
The trolley problem doesn't count for an all-powerful God. The all-powerful God obviates the trolley problem by simply reaching down and lifting the trolley off the tracks, thereby nobody having to be killed. So if your all-powerful God insisted the only way world peace can be achieved is if I mutilate children, I would tell him to go take a leap. I'd heard he's all-powerful. Why can't he bring about the world peace without making me do something like that? And you would do right to answer in the same way, but you won't. So, dude, we're gonna tie things up because I've got to end the stream. Do come back and call us back another time because I got to wrap things up. I have a hard stop at the hour, and I've got a couple of things to do before we end it. So, thank you for calling in, True Joy. I appreciate the conversation, and feel free to call back. I'll be back on later tonight. I'm not still entirely sure how the call-in mechanism is going to work, whether it will be calling in on Justin's stream. I think that's how it will work, calling in on Justin's link. But yeah, try us later tonight if you want to get involved. Otherwise, Sean and I will be back here on Thursday evening for anyone who wants to call. Okay, so yeah, apologies. I see Jamem in the TikTok queue. I won't be able to take you in, I'm afraid, friend, because I got to do the end bits, and then end things for now. Just for now, it'll be a short goodbye. So a couple of super chats to share. Hotep says, "OG sin is a scam structurally, psychologically, historically, and ethically. Religious ethics and cosmology rely on fear of punishment, sin, and hell. Distracts from rationality." Yeah, the religious stuff is just nonsense. What a silly way of looking at the world. And Buzz says, "I'm atheist, but Chick-fil-A is the Lord's chicken. I gather it's tasty, but I wouldn't set foot in there for one moment." And finally, for now, Punta del Este, good to see you. We here in the Far East have lived 5,000 years without Yahweh, without killing each other. Right. And human beings were living and surviving perfectly fine for hundreds of thousands of years before these religions came along. They had worked out that they would do better to cooperate in groups than to try and, tough it out on their own. And making a group work successfully means having agreements about how the people within the group are going to cooperate. And that invariably means rules. And that leads you to some kind of morality. This is not a big mystery, people. These people who come and make the moral argument for God like it's some unfathomable mystery. It's one of the worst arguments that exist for God. It's astonishing that people do this with a straight face. Okay, so here we are. At this point, I'm going to do a couple of housekeeping-y things before we wrap up the stream for now. Sorry for doing a short one. It's just life got in the way today, and I thought, well, as I'll be on for a few hours again later on tonight, you might forgive me for that. Okay, so first thing is the leaderboard for today's conversations. It looks like this. Mr. Was the top call with 54. I don't think we had a huge amount of voting actually today. I wasn't sharing the Rate the Caller link, so that's my bad. And the worst call was Big Vaz on 11. So that's that, fair enough. And then, of course, I have to show you the members wall, which looks like this. I'll quickly go through the names. Amon-Ra, Andrew, Catby, Devil's Public Defender, Elizabeth, Gordon, Hunter Girl, Izza, Anister, Annabella, Cognitive Dissonance, Drew, Fliberty, Harold, Indentured Cervix, and Buzz. And also we have Jiffy Cones, Kif, Christy, Moustache Boy, No One Left Behind, Orjan, Pamela, Pseudo V Science, K.O. Young, Kirby, Lacadian, Nectu, Oceanus, PVG, Pastor Fairy, and Rich. And finally, Huckleberry, Roger, Tef, Tim, Tom, Upshot, Zeitgeist, Rivenash, Shadow, The Leakest Wink, Bacon and Bush, T, Wocky Slush, and Edvard. They are the Inner Circle. I don't think we got an Inner Circle activation today, did we? I don't think we did. So no need of the Inner Circle today, but stand by, Inner Circle, stand by. There we are for now. That is the stream. Thank you so much for joining me, especially people who got up early. I really have no expectations that Sean, mods, other people in the audience. Mods, you're amazing as always. Thank you so much. I will see you at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. tonight in the UK, and watch the channel, because it might be that that the feed actually streams directly to this channel as well. So I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work. Last time I was just a guest on Justin's, but I think when I spoke to him yesterday about it, I'm going to send him my channel ID, and the stream will get pushed out to both channels, which might mean two lots of chat. I'm not entirely sure how it works. We'll figure it out later on. But we will be back then. And thank you so much. And Sean, thank you, my friend.
Always. Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody.